The seagulls follow the trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, welcome aboard, fellow passengers, fellow time travellers. Come on board this magical bus because the Bustalgia World Tour continues. And I'm really thankful, given the price of petrol these days. We haven't had to go far. The last time we were in France, we're only crossing the border. We're going into Belgium and Holland. And those who've noticed it right away, I'm representing Holland tonight. And the man to this side, Russell Boys, is representing Belgium tonight. So we're actually in coordination with the tournament. I've got a nice 1974 effort on. Adidas Belgium trackie, absolute cracker. So, Russell Boyce, welcome aboard, mate. Welcome back on the Bustalgia Tour, mate. How excited are you about tonight? Euro 2000?
Oh, mate, Euro 2000, here we come. But it's just as well, Phil, that it wasn't far to travel because, obviously, as you say about the price of fuel, this bus is costing me a fortune these days, mate. and I don't know if it's been mentioned by Big Doris Johnson, but I'll tell you this. The price of time travel these days, Phil, is even further through the roof. Just need to mention it because we're the only bus that does it. We are time traveling, mate, and it's good to have you at the wheel once more.
Thank you very much. So, well, to start the show, I'm just going to throw some other trivia out there because, as I say, I'm wearing a 1974 Netherlands shirt, a Johan Cruyff effort, and I only learned this fact the other day. Yes, I actually do get top facts from a day-to-day basis. My friend, who's a Rangers supporter, I sent a picture of this to him because I thought, you'll probably appreciate this, but he is a big Cruyff fan, but obviously I know the colour. I know. But anyway, he said about the two stripes on it, because I was like, well, obviously Toffs can't sell a shirt with Adidas three stripe because that's a registered trademark.
Of course.
Turns out Johan Cruyff never wore three stripes. He only wore two stripes. He was a Puma-sponsored athlete. So Johan Cruyff, if you look up any 1974 picture of Johan Cruyff at that tournament, he's wearing two stripes. He's not wearing three stripes. He's the only Dutch player that's allowed to do it because Puma and Adidas were both owned by brothers that were beefing with each other. Rudolf Dassler owned Puma and Adolf Dassler, Adidas, owned Adidas, and they hated each other. And Cruyff was a Puma-sponsored athlete, so he had permission to remove a stripe. So this is actually correct. So at first I was like, they can't obviously do the three stripe, but that's actually a fact. So there you go. That's the first bit of trivia.
Already, mate.
You can have that one for free. There you go. Go and tell people in the pub. Tell people in the pub that one. There you go.
I'll tell you another thing though about that, Phil. Right? See if that was in 2022, and Mbappe, for example, refuses to wear, I don't know, if Foods Out that makes France gets Nike, And he's not got the swoosh on there. He's the only one who doesn't have the swoosh because he's the Adidas sponsored. We'd be saying football's gone, the game's gone. These players have too much power, and yet there's examples from back in 1974.
Yep,
where player power was clearly something that was very much in play back then as well. That's interesting.
That one blew me away. I was like, wow, amazing. So yes, there are some facts that I've still not even learned yet. So there you go. So Endless Celts, you have some hope. If you're watching right now, there is hope. There is a glimmer.
Oh, Phil, they are in a world of trouble. A world of trouble, mate. I don't think they realise what is coming down their way. They've got no chance against us, mate.
Pressure's on,
mate. No, I know on us though. Well, not on us. The bus will run them down.
Okay, man. I hope so.
Oh, you've got to be confident.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to the clock is now ticking. Saturday, that is going to be.
Bring it on, Endless Celts, you bunch of bastards. Let's have you.
So let's now quickly do my other trivia. I always start the show with an actual trivia question. I'll throw something out there, and we'll come back to it at the end of the show with the answers. And this week's one, it's a bit of a stinker, in advance. It's got a wee bit of Scottish football trivia in it as well. It's Euros trivia and Scottish football trivia. So there are 4 answers to this one. 4. So I'm looking for 4 players who have played in Scottish football in their career and have also played in the final of the European Championship.
Oh, I like this.
It's not necessarily played at some point in the final of the European Championships, and they've also had a spell in Scottish football during their career. So there is tonight's trivia. There's some. I think there's one blindingly obvious answer, and then the other ones, you've heard of them, but it's going to take a bit of thinking. I have a funny feeling at the end of the show there's going to be a lot of just random guessing in the chat. But hey, you never know. We shall see when we get to it. So Russell, let's get started, mate. The Euro 2000 tournament, the first major tournament held between multiple countries, first European Championships to do it. Holland and Belgium, mate. So
he is the stat man, eh? He is the stat man. What was that song in the 90s?
Scatman
I'm a stat man.
Scatman John. That was the one, 1993 or something like that, around about there. But yeah, let's get battered into it. Let's go back to the year 2000 and take a look at what was going on in the world. We always like to start with a pop culture rewind, and we always start with the football champions who won what in the year 2000. So we'll start at the top, the Champions League. It was Real Madrid, won one of their many Champions League. They beat Valencia 3-0 in the final, Spanish affair in Paris, and it was goals from Morientes. A really nice goal by McManaman in the final. I do remember it, the one that drops out from the corner and he volleys it, kind of jumps up and volleys it. And Raul scored the third one. Valencia that season, they actually got to 2 finals back to back. And early in the season, they actually played Rangers in the group stages. And one Hugh Keevins described them as, in the build up to the game, the Aberdeen of Spain.
Wow.
And they beat Rangers at Ibrox, beat them in Spain, and then went on to the final, and went on to the final again the next year. They had a little magician in the middle of the park called Gaizka Mendieta, who we'll definitely talk about at some point tonight.
Yes.
The UEFA Cup was an absolutely dire, drab 0-0 draw between Arsenal and Galatasaray, which Galatasaray ended up winning on penalties. And the Cup Winners' Cup, and nobody won that because the Cup Winners' Cup's been retired. But just for consistency reasons, the last ever Cup Winners' Cup was 1999, the year before, and it was won by Lazio, who beat Real Mallorca 2-1.
Oh, good.
Christian Vieri and Pavel Nedved scored, and a guy named Danny, who went on to play for Barcelona, I do believe. He scored for Real Mallorca. But Nedved scores the last ever goal in the Cup Winners' Cup, and it's a sublime Nedved-esque volley from outside the box. It's a beautiful goal to win it.
Was that Lazio team, did that have Veron in it by then?
Oh, God, it did, mate. Oh, it did.
And Crespo as well.
Yep.
Crespo as well, he joined by then, hadn't he?
Yep.
Because a couple of the boys for Parma, they were a team. That was Nesta at the back as well. They were class, man.
Well, mate, funny you should say that, because I've actually got a list here, because I know you appreciate it. This is one of the things I love about this show, because we're of a similar age. The amount of names that just come up and you get all like, I remember him, because Lazio were one of the big winners that year. They won the Italian League, the Italian Cup. They also won the UEFA Super Cup at the start of the season. They beat Man United. And I thought, man, I remember Lazio being amazing. So I jumped on Wikipedia. Here is a list of Lazio's players, right, from this era, right? So just to give you an idea of what they looked like: Pavel Nedved, Marcelo Salas, Juan Sebastian Veron, Dejan Stankovic, Ravanelli, Attilio Lombardo, Sensini, Boksic, Mancini, Mihailovic, Alessandro Nesta, Matias Almeida, Fernando Couto, Diego Simeone, and the manager was Sven-Goran Eriksson.
Of course.
Wow. That's a scary good team. That Lazio team is ridiculous because, yeah, they did win Serie A in the year 2000. Man United, well, it's back to Man United and Rangers winning stuff again. That's not going to last much longer, though, as we go further on in this little series. So Man United, they won the English Premier League, and Rangers won the Scottish Premier League. In Spain, it wasn't Real Madrid, it wasn't Barcelona, it wasn't even Atletico Madrid, it was Deportivo La Coruña that won La Liga with Juan Carlos Valeron, an absolute baller, as number 10. Did they have a striker called Walter Pandiani at that point, or was that a few years later?
He was definitely there at one point. I was thinking more about, was it Diego Tristan up top?
I think Tristan either played for them or Espanyol, because I can see him in the blue and white stripes in Espanyol.
Well, Raul Temudo was Espanyol.
Right, okay. So Tristan must have been Deportivo.
I think Tristan was Deportivo.
Well, I've actually got an irrational hatred for Deportivo. You'll love this story. So see, in high school, we had to take French as like a language through first year, second year, and our 2 standard grade years. But in second year, they also allow you to take Spanish to basically decide when you're going to standard grade, you want to do Spanish as well as French. So the first day in Spanish class, our teacher's obviously telling us bits about Spain and that before getting into the real crux of what they're going to teach us. And one of the things was she was saying, like, okay, can anyone name some Spanish cities? And everyone's naming Madrid, Barcelona, places to be on holiday, like Benidorm and that, right? And she'll tell you a wee bit about each city and like the sort of like the locals that were things to do in that area, right? So then it got to like a quiet point, and then I was like, put my hand up. So I was like, Valladolid. And then she's like, yes, Valladolid. So she told me that. And I'm like, again, Santander. And I'm just going through the league table in my head. I'm just going through the Spanish league table.
Yes.
I'm like, Zaragoza, Bilbao, Vigo. I'm just going through all these cities. And then it was like, I got to the point where everyone in the class was kind of looking at me, waiting for me. I'm going for the 10 at this point, right? And about that, Deportivo. And she's like, no, Deportivo means sport. So always remember that the word Deportivo means sport in Spanish. Because of that, it's actually La Coruña is the city that Deportivo play in. So yeah, that's that one always caught me out. So every time I see their name, I'm just like, bastards. They cost me the 10. They cost me.
I get it, mate.
So,
especially a man as passionate about his stats as you, I can imagine.
Of course, mate. Of course. In Germany, we had Bayern Munich back to win it after Kaiserslautern getting wide for a couple of years there. Bayern Munich back on top. In France, it was Monaco. In Portugal, it was Sporting Lisbon. And I said it in the last episode. That says, don't worry, see in Holland, we'll eventually find a PSV or a Feyenoord one. And here is a PSV Eindhoven season. They won the league. That would have been the team that was spearheaded by Ruud van Nistelrooy before his transfer to Man United. It probably would have been around about that time.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Was zero. I'm trying to think. Is that because he played at Euro 2000, Van Nistelrooy, and then he gets injured that summer?
He does. I remember the injury. It was live on Sky Sports. Remember, it was a live thing.
It was mad. But that year, 99-2000, he would have spearheaded that PSV side 100%, man. Yeah, and
so they've won the Eredivisie, as you would say, and the Ballon d'Or winners were Rivaldo was the holder from 1999, and the one who would win it at the end of the year 2000 was Luis Figo. I'll tell you something from looking at the Ballon d'Or winners. I'm surprised Zidane only won it once, because we will be talking about Zidane later on. Hey, Luis Figo was unbelievable as well, but I thought Zidane won it more times, and I thought, see, for some of his performances in this tournament, I thought Zidane must have won it in 2000 as well. No, he's only won it once in 1998. So I was like, wow, but Figo was
the only time he won it.
Only time. Zidane's only won it once, 1998.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. I thought I had it in my head as well that he won it multiple times, but not. No.
I thought he would have won it at Real Madrid.
No, he did not, mate. He did.
Wow.
Shocking. That's a real surprise, that one. But yeah, a couple other little football stories as well, as Man United caused a lot of controversy in the 99-2000 season when they did not opt to play in the FA Cup and instead went away to play in the FIFA World Club Cup. And they kind of get their arse handed to them. And we talked about this the other day, weren't we, Russell? There was I think it was an Ecuadorian team or a Mexican team or something. No, the Aguinaga was Ecuadorian. A midfielder by the name of Alex Aguinaga played for Necaxa. Necaxa was the team he played for, and they schooled Man United, and this guy was a champ manager legend, wasn't he?
He was,
Russell?
mate.
Yeah.
Aguinaga was a player I knew before that tournament because of Championship Manager.
There you go. Aye.
So see when he was like doing things at that World Championship, because that World Championship was live on the BBC, I'm sure.
It was, yes.
Aye, it was the BBC on politics. I remember watching it. Edmundo was at Vasco, wasn't he?
Vasco
Up front
Gama.
with Romario.
Mm-hmm.
Romario and Edmundo were the strike partnership.
Yeah.
No wonder United got their arse felt. But like Alex Aguinaga doing things was no surprise to little scout Bhoycie at that point, only 11 years old, 12 years old, because in Champ in 99-2000, I used to sign him for about 600 grand.
Mm-hmm.
But the annoying thing was, right, he was 28 years old. No, he was about 26, 27 years old. Born in 1971, right? As you know, that's how I associate players' age as opposed to their actual age. And then by the time the greatest Championship Manager comes out, 01-02, I'm thinking, Aguinaga on this, I bet he's brilliant. He's 3 years older, Phil. So they'd obviously got the year of birth wrong on the earlier versions, like 99-2000 and stuff. They've got the year and they've had to revise it. So suddenly this worldie is like 33 at the beginning of the game. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying the 33-year-old because that sounds ancient. 33 is not old, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. But at the time when I was young, I thought it was.
Yeah.
But Alex Aguinaga, I must have been the least surprised 12, 13-year-old watching that World Championships that he was a baller because of the greatest game ever, Champ Man. Again, I just owe it all to that game, mate.
Well, mate, it's defined your entire life. And so later on, we will be playing a game of Date of Bhoycie again. I promise I've actually typed the dates round the right way this time. So yeah, I've got 5 players lined up, so that'll be something for later in the show. Another wee football story as well. We mentioned it back in the Euro 96 one about Wembley was getting torn down, which of course I preferred the old Wembley because I'm an old school fan. And Bustalgia was the Melbourne manager at the tournament. Oh wow,
no
Patrick McLaughlin
way.
Coming in with a big trivia, mate. I love it. I love it. Oh man! So, what age would Ange Postecoglou have been at that point?
Definitely true?
Oh, take it to VAR. Quick, Patrick McLaughlin, definitely go and Google that and verify that, and come back in the chat and tell us if that's true. Oh man, that's incredible, man. Well played, well played. But yeah, another wee quick story I was just going to throw out there was the last FA Cup final took place at the old Wembley, and it was an absolute stinker between Chelsea and Aston Villa. Not a fitting way for that tournament or that stadium to end essentially with its last ever FA Cup final. But funny enough, the last ever English League Cup final that season as well was won by one Martin O'Neill and his Leicester team. The second time that he won it, and they beat Tranmere Rovers in the final, who were a lower division side managed by John Aldridge.
It was a good draw.
It was a good draw.
That was a good draw.
Aye. So that was his second of his League Cup, but Martin O'Neill's future is about to take a little twist in the summer of 2000, as we're about to discuss very, very soon. Okay, some of the other big sports winners. Now, Russell, you know, when we do the other sports winners, I'll usually start with like who won the Formula One championship. But I've got something to throw at you, and I want you to tell me if this sounds familiar. So you'll have noticed in the last couple of ones, I keep saying Michael Schumacher comes up short, finishes second each time. He get pipped by Damon Hill, he get pipped by Mika Hakkinen. So 2000, Michael Schumacher did finally win his third title. But before that, in the 1999 season, Michael Schumacher crashed at Silverstone and broke his leg and missed most of the season. And then he came back in 2000 with a bit of a chip on his shoulder and then proceeded to go and dominate. Do you know anyone else that might have broke their leg in 1999 and then came back in the year 2000 and then proceeded to bowl over everyone that got in their way? Does that sound familiar?
His name escapes me. You need to give me a clue. What was his hair like? Did he have an iconic hairstyle or anything?
He did, mate. He had some dreadlocks, mate.
Dreadlocks? Oh, mate. No, now I'm really struggling. Reggie Blinker!
Reggie Blinker! Yeah. But yeah, older Michael Schumacher emulating his inner Henrik Larsson there, because yeah, he came back in 2000 after getting pipped to the title 4 years in a row and proceeded to win the next 5 titles from 2000 to 2004. Michael Schumacher just absolutely dominated, absolutely dominant force. And yeah, as much as I wasn't his biggest fan, because again, F1 doesn't benefit from one man dominating it, you can't deny he was unbelievable what he did, and he knew he was good, just like Henrik Larsson.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to come in very quickly, Phil, and say to Teresa Lyle photo, I did see during the opening credits when I was bringing up comments that you'd got a full-time job, I believe. So a big congratulations to you, Teresa, and well done on that. The bus is buzzing for you.
Yes,
I
indeed,
like,
well done,
I like
Teresa.
to say that sort of thing, Phil.
Yes.
And I was also going to see if we could, Phil, get you to explain about, or in fact, you can do it at the end. You can do it at the end, talk about Bustalgia's future.
Okay, I shall do, mate. That's not a problem.
That'd be good.
Let's see. Boxing. Vitaly Klitschko held the WBO championship going into the year 2000 and held it for most of the year. Evander Holyfield won the WBA championship. Russell, as you're more of a boxing fan than me, and if in the quickest, most layman's terms ways possible, can you explain the whole WBA, WBO, WBC thing and what's actually the top title in boxing out of the 3 commissions? Or is it just...
I don't really know, to be honest with you, what one you would rather have. The thing is that the fact they've split into these different factions, unfortunately makes it extremely difficult to ever call yourself the unified heavyweight title winner. If you actually look at even Fury right now, Fury unified the belts. It's kind of Fury's fault recently why they've been split, because Fury won the unified from Vladimir Klitschko in Germany. And then, of course, he vacated all the belts because he got done, I think it was for drugs or whatever, not like performance enhancing. I think he was just on the Charlie one night, right? So he kind of vacated them and they all sort of spread out again. And since then, they've never been able to get sort of unified ever since. Fury has the WBC, which I would say is probably the most coveted.
Right.
But at the same time, I would say having the other 3 at the same time is pretty equal. If not, you would maybe rather have the 3 than the 1. So the only way, of course, this is why you get into the debates now about why Fury will 100% come back to fight either Joshua or Usyk, because he will unify it again, and then he will definitely retire. He'll do the same trick, and he wants to do the same trick twice. But in layman's terms, mate, it's a load of nonsense. It's all about bullshit, and realistically, they should get their heads together. There should be one belt.
Yeah, that would make it a lot easier, especially when I'm doing the research for this. I'm looking up world heavyweight champions, and it's like all split up, and I'm just like,
it's a pain in the ass, mate.
I just look for a name that I know. I'm like, Vitaly Klitschko, I know who he is. I know who Evander Holyfield is. That'll do me.
So Donny Boy says there's too many good boxers, Phil, right, worldwide to have just one champion. But as you know, Phil, why not just have a intercontinental champion, a hardcore champion?
Hardcore champion. Somebody runs in with a trash can and smashes it over their head. Aye, why not, eh? And the snooker, I know you like about the snooker, but Stephen Hendry's run of dominance, I think it's over now because we've got an all Welsh final. Mark Williams defeating Matthew Stevens in the final of the World Snooker Championship. And in tennis, Pete Sampras is once again the men's Wimbledon champion. He defeated Pat Rafter in the final. Meanwhile, Venus Williams is the women's champion, defeating Lindsay Davenport in the final. Vijay Singh won the US Masters in 2000, and Tiger Woods won the British Open, because Tiger Woods is becoming a big deal at this point. He goes on and just dominates for the next, 7-8 years or whatever it is. I don't even know. He just picking up trophies left, right, and centre. In the American Super Bowl, the St. Louis Rams defeated the Tennessee Titans to win it. And in the world of wrestling, as I always touch on every time we do this, oh my God, it's absolute carnage, because in the year 2000, the WWF is doing absolute mad numbers now. It is well ahead. Just a month before this, we've had the Iron Man match, which you've talked about, between Triple H and The Rock. Can you hang, Rock? You've used before,
which was a question I asked of Rangers during the title running. I think I posed that question February, March time, would you say, Phil?
I think it was, yes. Can you hang,
February,
Rangers?
March, and I says, can you hang? That'll be the question you ask, because now we've went ahead. Can you hang? And you're right, it was a reference to Triple H saying that to The Rock ahead of their 60-minute match. Mine was about, the run-in, can you hang now that we've went ahead? I think it was after we'd beat them. And I remember saying it on one of the shows, and it was relevant. So,
But that's what's going on. It's basically a back and forth between Triple H and The Rock to be the top guy in WWF, because Steve Austin's out injured at this point. The Undertaker's cutting about on a motorbike now rather than being the Lord of Darkness. You've got guys like Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle, Kane, Chris Benoit, who we try not to talk about nowadays. they were all
Right, it was
doing good
amazing.
bits in the mid card. He was a good wrestler, but yeah, let's try and not acknowledge what he did later on. Yes,
Wild.
but over in WCW. WCW's dying on its arse because the world title was changed hands 25 times in the year 2000, including a reign for Hollywood actor David Arquette, because somebody at WCW thought it would be a good idea to put their title on a Hollywood actor to try and spike a rating. And yeah, in less than a year's time, the WWF would buy the WCW, and by the next time we do Bustalgia and we catch up with this, WCW will be no more, and WWF will now be WWE. So a lot's about to change, but yeah, WCW is absolutely dying at this point. So that's what's going on with all the wrestling. So on to music. Oh, if you thought 1998 was a bit of a hard one, it's going to get harder, by the way, for the music segments the further into the 2000s we go. I'm saying it right now.
I've got a lot of good memories of these though, man. Like, see 2000, right? Before you even get into the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
See the songs you're going to list. Yep. I want everyone to think of the music channel, The Box.
The Box.
Remember that came out?
Oh,
that must have came out about 1999, 2000. Mm-hmm. And I think these songs are very much like go hand in hand with The Box. And that's when they sort of started, they kicked off a music like video channel sort of like, it was crazy. A domino effect, they created the music channels, because after that you got the back of it, Kiss came out, which was more specialist for R&B and dance music. Then you got Magic, which was older songs, you know, going back to the 70s, the 80s and stuff like that.
Yep.
And we were getting like hits or the hits or something like that. And it was all building. And at one point, you remember, because of The Box, all the music channels started becoming, you had to buy a music package on Sky. That was an actual separate package. Now you just get it as standard with your entertainment pack that you have to get if you're taking Sky TV. So music channels, music videos at this point, I think we're really at a peak. So when we go through these songs, I reckon a lot of the audience will be able to picture the videos in their head. And I find that the channel synonymous with that would be The Box.
The Box. You're right, now that you mention it. I do. When I look at these songs, I think about watching The Box for hours on end, waiting for my favourite song to come on. You had to request a song on The Box. And when you did request it, it was comes up and the number somebody's requested. And yes, I know, Chugs, we explained it at the start. I know. We're doing the Netherlands Belgium thing, you know, we're doing that. But
you're rocking it, mate. You're rocking it, mate. You're rocking it.
So music, let's fire through this list of songs. So the number one song when this tournament kicked off was by Sonic. It was Feel So Good. And then the big hits in 2000, Go Let It Out by Oasis. Yes, Oasis still managed to find the number one in the year 2000. Kylie Minogue made a triumphant turn to music. A 15-year-old Phil approved of that one. Spinning Around was the number one hit. Oops, I Did It Again by Britney. Oh, God, aye. 7 Days by Craig David, Stan by Eminem and Dido, Rock DJ by Robbie Williams, It Doesn't Matter by Wyclef Jean, featuring The Rock, as The Rock was starting to phase out of wrestling into other ventures. This was the start of it. We had All the Small Things by Blink-182, Still DRE by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, Beautiful Day by U2, which of course would become synonymous with the Premiership highlights a couple of years later. Can't Fight the Moonlight by Leanne Rimes, Independent Women, Destiny's Child, a horrendous cover of American Pie by Madonna, Get It in the Fucking Bin, It's My Life by Bon Jovi, and a song that's synonymous with Celtic nowadays, One More Time by Daft Punk. Yes, and the big hits in the year 2000, Daft Punk, man, say, still gets wheeled out from time to time. In fact, recently it did at Celtic Park with celebrations. So,
it seems to have made a renaissance. I mean, see, for me, I just think like that and Roll With It. I think, when Roll With It got played after the 3-0 pumping against them, I know it was obviously a nod to the passing of Wim Jansen, which I thought was really classy. But I also think you look at the reaction and you go, I don't think all the upbeat singing along with that was all because of Jansen. I think a lot of that was the kids are just, they're loving that track being played. I think they missed a trick playing that on Trophy Day. But anyway, they did play One More Time again. And I think that will feature again next year. I think One More Time has made a comeback into the Celtic PA playlist, Phil. And long may it continue.
And some one-hit wonders. Imagine if some of these made their way into the Celtic playlist. My God. So we've got The Bad Touch by the Bloodhound Gang. That was one-hit wonder. Thong Song by Cisco.
Love
That
it.
was a number one. No, that was a number one hit as well, but it was also like a
Aye.
one hit wonder because he never really amounted to anything. Lady by Mojo, Toca's Miracle by Fragment, a lot of dance tracks this year. Oxide and Neutrino, Bound for the Reload. I think they sampled like the Casualty theme song or something in that. Something tells me that's stuck in my head somewhere. The Rude Sandstorm. Groove Jet
Classic.
by Spiller and Sophie Ellis Bextor. Now, Sophie
Oh,
Ellis
love
Bextor don't
it.
have more songs, but Spiller, he just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. Madison Avenue, Don't Call Me Baby, and another cult classic, another one that always finds in the Celtic playlist, a one-hit wonder, Cairncraft, 400, Zombie Nation, and you know exactly why that is a cult classic at Celtic Park. That is Zombie Nation, Russell?
Definitely, mate. Definitely. Zombie Nation. Do you know it's funny? Because I actually think that song reminds me of Dembele the most. Actually reminds me of Mr. Dembele. Like, whenever he scored, they would play that. I think Dembele reveled in that. He understood the story, right? You could tell with Dembele, he was one of those folk. He joined Celtic when he was like 19. I think he was quite impressionable. And I think like he was like starting to go, oh, they've came back for the dead. Gotcha. And I think that he very much never misses a moment to sort of take aim at, you know, his old rivals on Twitter and things like that. I think Dembele, that song was very apt when he played. I think he was one of those players who enjoyed rubbing his rivals' noses in it. Aye.
Yes, he did.
Speak sometimes, man.
That's all right, mate. Don't you worry about that. Now, you said earlier on, you talked about how music channels, how things started to change. And I'm quite glad you brought it up because there's a wee link here. Because something else happened in 2000 that would change the music landscape forever. Something came, it didn't last too long, it disappeared really quickly, but it's changed music forever. An app by the name of Napster was big in the year 2000.
I loved it.
Russell, for the younger viewers out there, what was Napster and why has it changed the music world forever?
It's crazy because see, when you look back at Napster, right, you think, my broadband's cutting out the now, mate, right?
Yes.
Right? So you think 22 years ago, right? And I'm downloading a song from the internet that's mine forever, and you don't need to buy it. You just type it in on, then you download this. Well, it would have been an app. It would have been called a program back then, Phil, would you say? It was a program.
Yeah.
You would download the program called Napster. Now, then once it takes a fortnight to download, you then go into Napster and you can just type a song that you want. I think the first one I downloaded on Napster, and it got swiftly removed from my parents' computer because like it was just causing viruses left, right, and centre, obviously. But the first song was DJ Alligator. What the fuck was that song called? Someone will remember. DJ Alligator. Oh, Blow My Whistle. That is what it was called.
Oh, wait, I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that one.
But I had the version, right, when it was like DJ Alligator featuring someone else, Blow My Whistle, and then it came out as like a pop record like a couple of years later. But I was like, when it came out as a pop, I went, oh, they've went mainstream, man. I was listening.
Sold it, man. Sold it.
but Napster then became LimeWire. Well, not the same company, sorry. LimeWire
it was an alternative.
Rivaled it, and actually, LimeWire was a lot smoother. LimeWire was actually a hell of a lot better. It was kind of based on Apple, wasn't it? Like all their like font and all that, and all their layout was like you were on a Mac.
I see.
LimeWire was very clever.
What I remember in Napster is like a guy that sat next to me in my geography class. He kept on telling me if you downloaded Napster, like he'd downloaded weeks before me, right? And I was on dial-up internet at the time, just like everybody else would have been at that point. And he's like, "Oh, you need to download this." And I'm like, "What Napster? What's a Napster?" And he's like, "Oh, you can get any song you want, anything." And I was like, "All right, okay, cool. I'll download it." And I just didn't bother. Then the next time I see him, "You downloaded Napster yet?" No. And eventually got to the point where he just kept badgering me. I went, "Right, fine, I'll fucking download Napster, okay?" So I finally got it. And yeah, the first song I downloaded was actually "It's My Life" by Bon Jovi, because it was a big hit in that year. That was my first one. You always remember your first download. There you go. And yeah, that was me off to the races after that. But yeah, later, I think it was maybe we're still within 2000 or sort of tail end of 2000, like Metallica were leading the charge for musical artists against Napster, and they had to sort of change their ways, and then they became a pay service, and then LimeWire popped up, which was an alternative, but LimeWire was also riddled with viruses as well. There were certain songs you downloaded and they were absolutely honking full of like, you know, all sorts of like malware and stuff like that to ruin your computer. But yeah, Napster did say it came along for a short time, but it did change the music world, because now suddenly we're like, what, MP3s? You know, suddenly the MP3 is a term that's in everyone's like head. Like, I've never heard of it before, but that's it.
True.
You know, downloading music. And of course, nowadays the musical charts have changed. You no longer just go out to the shops and buy a CD or anything. You download it, and that counts towards the song's totals for the week in the charts. It just became huge. This was the beginning of it, and Napster was the app that changed the whole world. It really did. It was incredible.
I'll tell you something interesting as well about, well, not that interesting, but I'll tell you anyway. When I was young, I must have been 14, 15, so a wee bit after 2000, but using these formats now, whilst I was trying to download these things, I got the program removed, right, because it was causing viruses.
Yeah,
that's probably trying to download porn as well, let's be honest. Right, but I basically had a mate who must have had, like, I don't know, man, like the equivalent of fiber broadband back in like 2002, right? And he would go, "Do you want a CD made for you?" So like once somebody made me like a mixtape, if you like, but on CD, and I was like, "How are you getting all these tracks?" He goes, "Any song you want, man." So I, being my entrepreneurial self, decided to go, what if I started getting you to make me albums that have just came out? And he goes, I could even print off the graphics. He was using his folks like color printer, but right, selling me them for £1, and I was selling them at school for £1.75. Right, this is the thing. Why didn't I just do it for £2? I've asked myself this the whole time. Why do you not just do it for £2? Because I felt I was ripping people off if I did it for £2. It's so stupid. Wow. Honestly, I'll never make it in business. I'm determined as I am. It's like £1.75, but mate, that was my little empire. Eh? So like, I would do my evening paper round, Sunday morning paper round, and then I'd make maybe 6 or 7 CDs a week, making a wee 75p's, mate. That was me. Carry out that sorted every weekend, man.
Nice. I respect the hustle, mate. Good wee business venture there. That's good. I remember people used to do that in my school as well. They always would get you like the newest albums and all that. So there was some people were definitely jumping on there, but yeah, then
there's a demand, there's a fee.
Yeah, exactly, supply and demand. But yeah, Metallica came along and ruined everything, had a moan about it, which fair enough, you can understand. But they were the main musical artists that were leading the charge against it, so cheers for that. So then also in 2000, that was the year that Bob the Builder was a Christmas #1. And I remember as a kid, the Christmas #1 always being a big deal, but this is the first sort of joke one. And we're going into an era now where we're just going to be inundated with Pop Idol and X Factor winners, and even 1 year Rage Against the Machine, and quite a bit of irony where we were told to download Rage Against the Machine to rebel against Simon Cowell, even though the lyrics in the song were "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." The irony in it pains me. So that's what we're heading towards with the Christmas #1s. But yeah, 2000 was the first one where it was quite a surprise one, because we had Eminem's Stan was #1 and was tipped to be there, and then Bob the Builder knocked it off the top spot. And another story from 2000, which we've always got to talk about, Oasis. Oasis is just like, they're like a staple for myself and Russell. And this was the year that they played the Familiar to Millions tour, where they did the 2 shows at Wembley. Now, I had it on DVD and I had that album as well. And for years and years, I've always thought it was fucking biblical, as Liam Gallagher would say. Thought it was a phenomenal concert. But I watched a YouTube documentary recently about it, and apparently, like, Noel Gallagher's went on record and said it's one of the most uncomfortable gigs he's ever played, because Liam was absolutely out his tree. And see, the more I think about it and watching it back, you do hear him. And amongst Tattoo Face coming in with a donation there.
Aye, and we better say as well, because obviously, you know, a member of the Bhoycie Bus, of course, Danielle, is in hospital right now, so our thoughts are with her.
Yes, Danielle.
I'm not quite sure what's happening tomorrow, but I'm sure she will power through like the trooper that she is. But yes, Danielle, we all love you on the bus, and we hope that you're all right, and we look forward to getting you back on the bus soon.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So she'll put through. She's a strong one, I say, Danielle. So she'll definitely pull through. So yeah, we'll send our best wishes to Danielle. But the Familiar Millions one, I was going to ask, like, do you remember, or you've obviously seen this and heard the album and so forth, do you remember Liam Gallagher being absolutely blitzed at this? Because when you do listen back to some of the songs, like, he stops and like banters with the crowd, if you want to call it that, and he's ranting away about, it was Patsy Kensit was his wife, wasn't it? like him and Patsy had literally just like split up like that a week before, and he rants about like taking bits of furniture and stuff like that from the house. Like I can remember listening to it originally and just thinking it was just Liam just being a dafty, and then it turns out he was like ranting about her.
There's a bit where he's saying as well, he's talking about the Be Here Now tour, and he's like, whose idea was it for the phone box anyway? Because remember the Be Here Now tour, they walked out of a phone box door. So he's a phone booth, I should say, like, you know, they come out of that. So he's starting to talk about all that as well, and then he's trying to get like every girl in the crowd to get like lift her top up, get them out for the lads and all this, and you're like, fucking hell. He definitely had a few, but I think his voice was all right, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was quite a good gig, but I was quite shocked to learn that Noel says it's the most uncomfortable he's ever been on stage.
He talks so much shite, honestly.
No,
see that guy? I swear to God, man, like you would not think he'd been in Oasis the way he talks. You know, and he's like, "Oh, I was terrified. I was so scared." Oh, shut up! He's just an annoying bastard. You know what I mean? He's pissed. He's your brother. You've known him for like 35 years by that point. Don't give me your piss. Oh, I was terrified. Oh, shut up.
Exactly. No, we're not having it, mate. We're not having it. Yes.
Embarrassing.
So movies in the year 2000, some big films. So number one at the box office when this tournament kicked off was Gladiator. Are You Not Entertained? Starring Russell Crowe. A fantastic film, but a bit on the long side. But yeah, it was a massive winner at the Oscars the year later. But yeah, the big films of 2000: Gladiator, Mission Impossible 2, Snatch, phenomenal film, better than Lock, Stock, I think, and very quotable film. Charlie's Angels, X-Men, Meet Parents, Scary Movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, Chicken Run, Castaway, Me, Myself and Irene, Road Trip, and Kevin and Perry Go Large was out in the year 2000 as well. And at the Oscars, American Beauty, starring Kevin Spacey, swept the board, winning 5 awards out of 8 nominations. And the big other news headlines in the year 2000, of course, has to be starting with the Y2K bug that never actually amounted to anything, despite years of scaremongering.
I don't know. I think I caught it, mate. Look at the statement, man. I'm pretty sure I caught it.
Apparently, all the computer systems are going to shut down at the stroke of midnight on January the 1st, the year 2000. It never did. It never happened. It was just a bunch of scaremongering nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, Channel 4 launched Big Brother in the year 2000. It became a pop culture juggernaut. Russell, what's your opinions on Big Brother?
Love it, man. I would go on that. Eh? Like, I think now if that came out, I think we would get a petition to get me on that. I think that would work, man.
You'd be interested in it. See, it bypassed me in the early years, and then you couldn't avoid it. And I began giving it a watch. I picked up midway through a season, but you can't really go in midway through. So if I see the next time that comes around, I'll end up watching it. And there was like 3 or 4 seasons in a row where I watched it from the start.
Mate. It was
following it, and it does hook you in. I mean, it's absolutely nonsense at times, but it still hooks you in because it's very, very smart. But it got too gimmicky for me. I remember the year where they decided to put twins in. It was Sam and Amanda, and I was just like, "Oh, here we go." These gimmicks.
I think the best years were the first few years when they were just like, "Look, here's a crate of bevy." Right, every night there's a crate of bevy, and just let them get banjoed and watch what happens. Just watch. It's like a science experiment. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do if we just stick 10 bottles of champagne, 4 liters of vodka between 12 people? Watch them go mental. I thought that was great. And then, of course, it's, what about the well-being? They're all drinking too much. I'm like, see, if I was in the Big Brother house, I'd be drinking too much as well. Who cares? They're all adults. They're making their own choices. I'm like, it's not like they're getting like forced. It's not like anyone's like pinning them down, forcing drink down their neck. You know what I mean? It was watching. I thought it was good. But Del Boy's in saying Big Brother is back this year, Bhoycie. So he says, and I have put a link in the comments, by the way, for Del Boy's charity walk. I will put the link in again before the end of the show. He is going from Wishaw to Carlisle in 24 hours. So he's trying to get the hours in. I know he's keeping his fitness up right now. And it'd be brilliant if everyone watching the bus can follow the link. It is just a wee above in the live comments. Give it a wee like and a follow. And also, Phil, if I may be so bold,
go ahead.
Another exclusive for you. An exclusive.
Love it.
Del of the Celtic Supporters podcast gets in touch with me yesterday and decides he wants to make the transfer permanent. He has decided to bring not just himself, but his franchise of what is it? But is it my Celtic story, right? Which has had on it, you know, from Alan Thompson to Russell Bhoycie on it, right? And he has had loads of great guests on his channel. He is now going to be bringing that as a monthly feature on the Bhoycie Bus, my Celtic story with
Brilliant.
Dell. He will be bringing that onto the Bhoycie Bus once a month. And with a wee added twist, he's going to be going round the Bhoycie Bus contributors and interviewing each and every one of them, or as many as are up for doing it once a month. So I am looking forward to that. And it's brilliant to have Dale on board.
Yes,
Nothing but a positive influence on the bus. And just another big name signing, you could say, Phil. For
Mate, getting paraded on the Celtic way with a scarf above his head, mate. Come on, you get it done.
I know.
Aye.
But I know I'm chuffed for that. So it's brilliant because I think the My Celtic story thing's been a total success. You only need to look at the views he gets on his own channel. You know, we bring that over here once a month. I think Dell will absolutely fly, and I'm really chuffed that he sees his future doing the My Celtic story on the bus. I'm very, very chuffed for that, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Sounds good to me. If he's got a spare 6 hours and wants to talk to me at any point, then no worries, mate. No worries, mate. I'll keep you going all night, mate. You'll be trying to push me off the show, like, get off the bus, try to kick me out. Speaking of getting picked out, good link there. The weakest link game show started in the year 2000. Mobile phones were also big. The Nokia 3310. Did you have a Nokia 3310? Were you playing Snake, Russell?
Well, I did, man, right? But, like, I wasn't really like that. It's weird because, like, I grew up in a nice area, but I wasn't, like, spoiled. I don't know. But it was weird. Like, everyone in my area was, like, rich, and we weren't, but we lived in the good area. But so my first phone, and it would have been about 2000, was the Philips C12.
Okay.
Don't know if you remember that, in fact. Do you know what? I'll fucking show you it, right? Because now I'm like,
okay.
If nobody knows what the Philips C12 is, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not having that. Like, you need to know what it is. But I did get a 3210, but it was an actual hand-me-down off my mate. That's
okay.
the truth. Once the 3310 came out and their parents went and got them that the day it came out, the bastards. Like, I got the 3210, and that's where, like, I was like, I'm playing Snake 2 years after everyone else, you know what I mean? But wait till you see this. Folk will remember this. Right, wait for this. Right, share screen. This is worth it. This Scott, who knows Philips C12 phones? You know it, sir. Wait till you see this.
Oh my word! Wow.
So that one in the middle, that was my first phone.
Jesus. Wow, that's I can't remember what my first phone was. Probably not a million miles away from that type of shape. I can't remember what model it was, but I had a phone that was that similar shape as well. But God, that takes me back. Jesus, nowadays, classic, phones, it's incredible to think what they've come from, and we're so dependent on them. Sadly, we became so dependent.
Well, I got that. It was what, 12 pence a text.
Oh God, that's right. Aye, it was
12
wasn't
a
it?
text, and you're only allowed like X amount of characters. You know what I mean?
It's like Twitter on a phone years ago.
Aye, Twitter on a phone, but 12p a tweet.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Man. Well, that's changed times.
Nothing worse when you think you're getting somewhere with a girl and you run out of credit. You know what I mean? You're like, oh no.
Oh no.
I was just building up tasking her out. You know what
I mean? Yeah, these are the 2000 struggles for all the younger viewers that are watching. This is the type of shit that you had to go through in the year 2000. And a good bit of technology that launched as well in the year 2000. PlayStation 2. This was when it came out, the PS2. You still got your PS2, as you revealed to me the other day.
I was playing it, mate. The weirdest thing is, so Phil's off the organiser of the show, and kudos to him, by the way. I think that shows when we do these episodes, and it's brilliant the work that he does. And we'll talk about Bustalgia at the end, or Phil will. But he sent me this huge rundown for the show, and I'm like, right, no worries. And he's like, PlayStation 2. In my other hand, I've got the phone, and no, not my cock. Right, in my other hand was PlayStation 2 controller. I had set it up. Wow. At that point, I was playing Time Splitters, mate. I then played SSX, the snowboarding game.
Snowboard Cross, yep.
Is that what it is? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, SSX, Super Snowboard Cross. Yep,
and
I had SSX.
And the other game I played was SmackDown 2. SmackDown 2, Know Your Role. You do career mode. And that was quality, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of fond memories in the PS2. Favourite games, probably the Grand Theft Auto series, because that's when the GTA series went from being the drop down the bird's eye view to 3D. We had GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas. Vice City and San Andreas in particular. And for me, even though I'm a big FIFA player these days, nothing comes close to Pro Evolution Soccer 5 and 6 on the PlayStation 2 era. That is the golden era of console football gaming, and I will not tolerate anyone calling it PES. That's a very English sort of term. It's Pro Evo. Pro Evo is what I always call it. Aye. I remember many empties years ago with my mates, get a few cans in and a game of Pro, as you say. You want a game of Pro, mate? You had the multi-tap plugged in. There'd be 6s round, 3 on each side. Oh, it was incredible. We game of Pro, mate. So it was Pro Evo 5 and 6 were always like the go-to games. And that's when it absolutely peaked.
Can I tell you another one for the PS2? Gran Turismo 3. Gran Turismo games were brilliant. Come on.
They were. Gran Turismo 3.
You had proper career mode in that, man. They were quality, mate. They were quality.
So the PS2 was probably out of all the consoles I've owned. I've had many consoles in the years. I think I've had more games for my PS2 than any other console because I'm an Xbox player these days. I kind of moved away from PlayStation in the mid 2000s, but my PS2 I definitely had the biggest library of games. But yeah, I always get fond memories of Pro Evo and Grand Theft Auto, Vice City and San Andreas. Just astounding.
Ryan Taylor's nailed it the other way. Pro Evo was square and shoot, and then you played FIFA and you crossed the ball by mistake. That was just awkward, eh?
See, Ryan Taylor, when I play FIFA nowadays, I play Pro Evo controls. I change it to alternate so that I've got the X button on the Xbox is to shoot and the B button is to cross because I'm still of a Pro Evo mindset. And yes, Monty, I do. Indeed, I'm an Xbox.
You know what's going to come now.
Yeah,
you know what's going to come now. He's going to want a game, eh? He wants to play you and he wants you to go Holland, I can tell.
You've seen my team on Ultimate Team. I've sent you guys a picture in the group chat. I've got prime R9 Ronaldo up front in my team.
You do, mate. You do.
And the biggest celebrity story of the year 2000 was Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston got married. Did you ever watch Friends, Russell? Were you a Friends person? You were Friends. See, I never really followed it. It was one of those shows that I could watch any episode and just know what's going on because it was a good show.
I watched it start to finish at autumn last year. Last year I watched, and I'd never watched it start to finish before. I knew I'd watched like all the first 4 or 5 series like religiously, and then as I got older, I was more interested in other stuff. And but I watched it start to finish. There was quite a lot of the later episodes I had never seen. I knew the story. But I didn't know some of the episodes in between. It's a brilliant show, mate. Classic.
I say, even for somebody who didn't watch it religiously like me, I could watch any random episode and I'll instantly know all the characters and get all the jokes and what's going on because it was something you couldn't avoid. You just could not avoid it. Game of FIFA 22 later on, son. I'll drop you a message on Twitter, mate, because he's followed me on Twitter, so I'll drop you a message later on, mate. I'll drop you a message.
No worries.
So we'll now do a little pre-tournament roundup, and then I suppose after it we'll do the little break thing that we do in between before we go into the actual tournament. Does that sound a good idea, Russell? Because that'll be coming up to about the hour because we're in 52 minutes now. So
that never goes amiss, mate. I know. I like a wee mid-break, mate.
So we pre-tournament roundup headlines is Scotland did not qualify for this tournament, but why did Scotland not qualify? They get beat by England in the playoffs. I remember October 99, I was on holiday in Benidorm. We were standing at a taxi rank and some English lout came out of the hotel to tell all his mates the good news. Yeah, we got the fucking jocks. And I'm just kind of standing there like I don't say nothing. But yeah, the England drew us in the playoffs because England didn't have a good qualifying campaign either, but they beat us 2-1 over the 2 legs. Paul Scholes scored both the goals at Hampden. But then Scotland actually won the second leg at Wembley, and it's the last ever meeting at the old Wembley between Scotland and England. Don Hutchinson scored the only goal. And late on in the game, we were denied an equaliser when Christian Daly threw himself at a corner and David Seaman literally just threw his hands up in the air and saved it. A total reaction save because Scotland were all over them that night. And if that had gone extra time, Scotland would have beaten them. But yeah.
And am I not right in thinking that was meant to be the last game at Wembley, but it wasn't?
That's correct. That is exactly correct.
Because they were raging they'd got beat. So they didn't want the last game at Wembley, the Twin Towers, to be a defeat, particularly not to us. So they didn't back down. They didn't back down. They doubled down and got their next biggest rivals, the Germans. And then the Germans beat them 1-0 as well.
Diddy Hamann scored from about 40 yards, and then Kevin Keegan resigned live on TV right after it.
That's it. We'll talk about Kevin Keegan because
We will,
he
mate,
was
aye.
manager of England at Euro 2000.
He was
I think
indeed.
I would have loved him to have been a Celtic manager at some point.
Proper character. We have slagged him a couple of times on Bustalgia. I've slagged him mostly because I like to bring up the sound bites that he provides, but he's just a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve. I think
love
it's
him.
safe to say. He's very passionate. Very, very passionate. But one thing I mentioned last week, and I said we're going to make this a running thing, we do a pre-tournament. Last week we talked about how Nike began doing a mass advertising campaign during the tournaments. Now they did the Brazil national team, was the 1998 one where they were playing football at the airport before boarding a plane to Paris. So for the 2000 one, it wasn't really connected with Holland and Belgium, but what it was a group of players have to draw up in a van outside like a high security building. Louis van Gaal is driving the van. He turns around to the back and says, "This is a mission," and it's a ball, and they've got to go in and steal a football. To which Oliver Bierhoff says, "It's only a ball." And he goes, no, it's rounder. That's the difference this time. So in the end, we've got the players that are involved in this is Edgar Davids, Luis Figo, Lilian Thuram, Pep Guardiola, Francesco Totti, Dwight York, Andy Cole, Oliver Bierhoff, and Hidetoshi Nakata. So they have to go into this building, and basically you see Edgar Davids puts on his trademark glasses, and the ball is on like a plinth in the middle of the room. And all the lasers, security lasers are going up and down. And then Lilian Thuram runs in and slide tackles the plinth. The ball falls. He controls it, then volleys it over to like Totti, who chests it down, and they have to like kick the ball all around the building to escape. But yeah, they actually made a PlayStation game out of that as well, Russell. They actually turned that into a PS1 game.
I did not know that.
Yes, I only discovered that a few weeks ago on YouTube.
Wow.
I was like, I can't believe they made this into a game. But yes, you had to. They had to go in and steal a Nike ball. Was the mission was officially the title of it.
Do you think it was a wee bit based on like Ocean's 11?
Do you know something? Ocean's 11 was maybe out 2001, but I think it was in production or something, so it was well known it was coming out because it does seem about the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a bit of there's something in cahoots there, mate.
There's something there, but yeah, that was the
you promote that, we'll promote like do you know what I mean? Like I think there's a bit of jiggery pokery with those. I think they're promoting each other there, I think.
But this one was the precursor. As I say, they've got a load of random Nike athletes there, Nike footballers to take part. And as I said in the last one, the 2002 one is probably the most iconic one. And if you know, you know. All I'll say is it involves a cage and some three-a-side football. And we'll be talking about that in the 02 one because that one is still well remembered to this day. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, the one for the Euro 2000 tournament was the mission where they had to go in and steal a ball. So, as I do every time, we always talk about who the host cities. So, of course, this is, as I said earlier on, it's Holland and Belgium. It's the first major tournament that's split over multiple countries. So we've got 4 cities in Belgium, 4 cities in Holland. So your Belgium cities were Brussels, Bruges, Charleroi, and Liège.
Well pronounced.
Charleroi. Yeah, I learned that actually when I looked up Belgium, like, because at the start, I didn't do any sort of speaking in Belgian or Dutch. Turns out in Belgium, they've got 2 very regional dialects. The north side of the country speak a language closer to Dutch, and the south side speak a language closer to French. So see, when you look at the Dutch national team and you look at the names, you've got guys like De Bruyne, that's a very Dutch name, but you've got Eden Hazard, but the actual pronunciation is Hazard, very French name, or Courtois. You know, you say it like that. So you can see, you can actually tell by looking at their names who's from what side of the country. Because if you know, the north side is more Dutch and the south side of Belgium is more French. So when you look at the Belgian national team, you can kind of figure it out as to who comes from what side of the country. But yeah, that is the Belgian cities. The Dutch cities that are hosted are Amsterdam, Eindhoven, Rotterdam, and Arnhem, where Vitesse play.
Arnhem. Is it Arnhem?
Arnhem, Vitesse Arnhem. Yeah, they wear the yellow and black striped.
I know the team, I would have called them Vitesse Arnhem. Is it Arnhem?
Arnhem. 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 Yeah. It's one of the smaller stadiums, which I found when I went back and looked at this footage. Like, I feel like a lot of the stadiums are dead small. You've got the Amsterdam Arena's huge. The Kuip, which is Feyenoord Rotterdam Stadium, that's huge. But the Belgian national team stadium's massive, but the other 3 Belgian stadiums are all dead small. Like, it just, I mean, it doesn't like cheapen the tournament anyway, but I always feel like that stands out with the tournament where it's like really, the stadiums are dead small and close to the park.
There's another question though, you know, you look at the amount of times during that era where Scotland were trying to do co-bids with Wales.
That's right.
With Ireland. And you think about it and you go, we've got 3 bad boys in, in terms of the capacity.
Yep.
Two classy stadiums and one, But no, in general, no, you look at that and you go, then you've got like Pittodrie 22,000. What, that must be the same as Vitesse Arnhem, easy.
Got to be a bit there.
And then if you're co-hosting with a Wales and Ireland, you're gonna have, if it was Ireland, you have Croke Park and what's the other one, Lansdowne Road?
Aviva now. Well, it'll be Lansdowne Road back then, but it's Aviva now, yeah.
And then you would have had, if it was Wales, you'd have had like, is it Ninian Park Cardiff play at?
Ninian Park was Cardiff Stadium,
Park and the Millennium Stadium, and you're going, there was, we definitely had a shout then. Definitely had a shout.
When you look at the stadiums, especially in the Belgian side of things, you're like, man, if they can get involved in a joint bid, then why couldn't Scotland have done it? So, yeah, makes sense. But yeah, that's our little pre-tour roundup. So we'll do the quick break just now, and then when we come back, we'll be diving into it, and right away we're going to be talking Henrik Larsson right off the bat, guys. So you definitely don't want to miss that. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes, Russell.
2 minutes. See you then.
No worries.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.
Hey.
There you go. We're back at it, folks.
Just a wee refreshment break,
Yes, indeed. When you gotta go, you gotta go. But we've done it for the last few episodes. It makes sense. It kind of splits the show from this is all the pre-tournament stuff and all the things going on, and this is the actual tournament chat now for the second sort of hour. So here we go. Return of the King. It's the obvious headline because this is a huge summer for just Celtic and obviously Henrik Larsson's return. So obviously Martin O'Neill was announced as the sales manager. Oh, there you go, Claxon. Oh, he's been mentioned already. Actually, I mentioned the Leicester City one, so he has been mentioned. But there you go. There's another Martin O'Neill, Claxon. So yeah, he's been announced on June the 1st officially as the Celtic manager. He also goes to this tournament as a pundit again. And unfortunately, Russell, after I mentioned it last week, I still haven't found the clip out there. There's definitely somewhere out there, him and Alan Hansen having a very awkward moment where he basically puts Alan Hansen in his place. I want to find it so bad because I can remember it so vividly, but it's not out there, man. It's not out there.
I was searching for Martin O'Neill. Well, just because I do that every day anyway, but I was searching Martin O'Neill Euro 2000. I did find them talking about Zidane with Gary Lineker. Right. So they showed like a highlight reel, and then it cuts to Martin O'Neill, Hansen, and David O'Leary, which was funny because once David O'Leary eventually left Leeds, of course, Martin O'Neill was pretty close to taking over from him at Leeds United after only a year at Celtic, if you remember correctly.
I do remember that story, yes, indeed. Did he not end up following him at Aston Villa though? Did Leary not go to Villa? Then when he left, Martin O'Neill ended up the Villa manager, didn't he?
Oh, I don't think he was directly before, was he?
I don't know. I know Leary definitely managed Villa.
He managed Villa. I don't think they were straight after each other. But
the clip must be out there somewhere. It must be, because I remember seeing it vividly. But anyway, he's been announced as Celtic manager. But the big story is, because the 99-2000 season, we're just off the back of that, the John Barnes, Kenny Dalglish experiment has failed massively, even though we still won a trophy that season, which is quite easily forgotten. We won the League Cup that season, beating Aberdeen 2-0, but Barnes had been sacked a few weeks before. It was Kenny Dalglish that was taking over at that point. But yeah, it wasn't a fondly remembered season, because it turns out when you're a team the size of Celtic and you win just one domestic cup for the season, that's not a success. Yes, keep that in mind when you're a team that size. You can't just win one of the domestic cups and try to claim that's a successful season. But anyway, we digress. But on October the 22nd, 1999, Celtic travelled to France to play Lyon in the UEFA Cup game. And Henrik Larsson suffered a horrible, horrible leg break. Now, I do believe that the images at the time, a lot of people think it's his bone that's coming through the sock because of the way it sort of bulges. I believe that's actually his shin pad. But it does look pretty horrible. And there's a image where he's lying on his back and his leg is up, and it's literally like, yeah, it's horrible for the Swedish. Right. You don't want to look at it at all. But he was out for the rest of the season. He comes back on the last day against Dundee United and gets, half an hour, 20 minutes or something like that. He just comes on as a sub. Oh, no, you're not going to show the actual picture? Oh, Jesus.
I think it is the shin pads making it look.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the gym. I remember watching that live and, you're watching it through a prism of an 11-year-old who's thinking you've got pretty much. I think I've got a good grasp of football by this point. Not in a. I thought I knew quite a lot about it, but you always kind of gauged the father in the room or the adult in the room, could have been your mother, or your big brother, I suppose, in the room.
Yep.
You gauge their reactions. I always remember my dad genuinely was like, "Oh no, and it wasn't just so much. Oh shit, get the emails off. How do we stop sharing? There we go.
Yeah.
But it was more like Dad was like, "Oh, it's a horror thing," and that was it. But it was the magnitude of what's happened. I'll never forget that. It was a case of, you don't get it. Whatever chance we thought we might have had. I don't know if you remember, Phil. That year we started the season with Larsson and Viduka up top.
We did.
I am sorry, that is a joke of a partnership in the SPFL.
We were smashing teams under John Barnes. That's easily forgotten. It was when Larsson got injured that the season derailed.
Mate, I think we were 9 wins from 9 in the league.
Yep.
Right? So let's it's very funny. But John didn't win the league with Celtic anymore.
Oh, sorry. On you go. So you'd stalled for a second, and then when you came back.
Sorry, mate. So basically, John Barnes said, I knew for that moment I wouldn't win the league with Celtic. I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah.
Mentally.
I remember us absolutely bodying Aberdeen a lot that season, like beating them 7-0 and 6-0 and stuff like that. There was a game against Kilmarnock, I think we put 6 past them. And that was even after Larsson got injured. Remember Ian Wright got signed on a short-term deal, and we were beating teams 5 and 6, stuff like that. It was it was just at the turn of the year, it really began to go wrong, and then the Inverness Califistle result was the one that just sealed his fate completely. But yeah, he's out for the entire season. He comes back on the last day against Dundee United. He gets a hero's reception coming on, but yeah, I think it was only maybe 20 minutes he came on for just at the end. But here's the crucial thing: Sweden are going to the European Championships. Henrik Larsson's not really kicked a ball since October, apart from a small cameo at the end of the season, but Sweden still took him to the Euros because he's Henrik Larsson. And he can do magic. He can do all sorts. Yep. So were you surprised to hear that Larsson got picked at the time? Were you not?
No. Let's be honest. I think at that point in time, you knew, not in a bad way. I mean, I was, as I've told you before, the strangest thing was I always checked for Sweden's results, even in their European qualifiers and that. And leading up to the Euro 2000, if I'm not mistaken, they drew 1-1 with England.
Ah, right. I can't even remember that one. Yeah, we tournament friendly.
And if
Larsson
I'm not
scored.
It was Johan Mjällby who scored.
Mm.
Now might have been either before the World Cup 2002 or Euro 2000. I think it was Euro 2000. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But Yeah, they definitely played anyway around that time. So I used to kind of like
Mhm.
take an interest in Sweden. As I said, I went there when I was young and always had I was just a mad affinity and always liked the strip as well. But I knew there's no danger they've got better than Henrik. So Henrik, they will take the punt. But the reason Henrik kind of forced Celtic's hand a wee bit as well. See, like playing in the last day, he wasn't meant to really as part of his recovery. But I think Henrik's kind of went, if you don't play me, I don't get to go there. And then I could be an awkward bugger. You know, and I think he did kind of basically hold Celtic to ransom a wee bit on that. And do you know what? That's just because he was desperate to play. Now, Paul Dyett's asking, did he cut his hair during then? No, he didn't.
No.
Henrik still had dreads up until around October under Martin O'Neill. And then he scored a goal in a 1-0 win at Pataudry, I'm sure it was. And he points to his head once he'd cut off his dreads. But Larsson, I mean, no doubt Sweden don't have the resources, mate, to be able to afford to not bring a player. But interestingly enough, about his Euro 2000 sort of a squad placement, he is squad number 20.
Yes, 20. Yep.
Which tells me that this was touch and go, and was one of the later decisions made in the squad. So the fact is, obviously, he goes there, and I'm sure you'll get to it for what he does.
Yeah, so Sweden's drawn into a group with Belgium, one of the host nations, Turkey and Italy. And overall, Sweden don't have a good tournament. They actually finished bottom of their group. Although, from a Celtic point of view, Johan Mjällby scores in the opening game against Belgium. They lose 2-1, but the Belgian goalkeeper makes an absolute dog's dinner of it. Johan Mjällby comes marauding right through, takes the ball off him and puts it into an empty net. I can remember being really chuffed at that because we're starting to really become aware of Celtic football now for Celtic players in tournaments. Because I say this about 6 years I've been watching football at this stage. Yep. And to see Johan Mjällby, who wasn't exactly renowned for scoring goals, to score in the opening game of the European Championships, it was like, yes, like a Celtic player, because when you start going to the internet, even at that stage, when you're going on like football forums, you're starting to already get a wee picture of what England think of Scottish football in particular. So when you see somebody from Scottish football doing bits at a tournament, you're like, yes, come on. And he's a Celtic player as well.
How interesting is that? Danielle's came in and said, one of his only 4 goals Johan scores. So there's 2 we've just we know 50% of Johan Mjällby's Swedish goals. England,
unbelievable,
and against Belgium at the Euros.
Belgium,
endless cells, mate. If we know 50% of Johan Mjällby's goals for Sweden, what chance have you got?
Oh God, I relish the pressure, mate. I relish it, mate. Let's do it.
Tomlinson is in the comments, mate, but I know deep down he's on a scouting mission, Phil. He's finding out how many stats you can rack up in a row, and I'm telling you right now, John Tomlinson is going to go back to base camp and say, just call it a day, guys. Just concede.
Oh, I love it. I love all the banter. This is going to be good stuff. So yeah, again, remind everybody, Saturday, definitely in there.
Saturday night's a big one, man.
But yeah, the Sweden campaign, I say it's a bit of a disaster. It gets down to the last game. They're playing Italy. And this is the moment. It's obviously the picture I've used from the thumbnail because it's an iconic image. So Francesco Toldo is the Italy goalkeeper. He's a Fiorentina keeper at this point. He's about to transfer to Inter, one of the biggest teams in Italy. But if Henrik Larsson is fed through with a great through ball, he's one-on-one with Toldo. And he does what Larsson does best. So he's got plenty of time to think, which sometimes can be a bad thing for some players when you get too much time to dwell on it. Not for Henrik Larsson, though. He just cool as you like against Italy.
Against Toldo.
Against Toldo. One-on-one, just makes Toldo go to ground, and he just drags it with his right foot around him and just slots it away coolly.
Does he not? He does a step over.
Do we step over on the run-up to kind
of
dummy him?
And then takes it. Oh, it's a joke. That one-on-one, I mean, and that was basically, Sweden are a goal to 0 down then. They need to win.
They need to win.
This is just to get it to 1-0. And he is that gallus. Yeah. And you know the thing was, Larsson, everything was done with a purpose. This wasn't... like you could maybe throw at Zlatan, particularly in his young ages, that he did flair for flair's sake.
Yeah.
It was like at times I think his goal return, if you look at Zlatan's, was low. It was poor because Zlatan was very much trying to add too many, cherries on top of, the pudding. Whereas really, you're just looking for it. Larsson was doing it with a purpose. Larsson was doing it because that step over will fool this goalkeeper. You know, the Italians, remember at this point, their pool of goalkeepers would have been Pagliuca would have still been going.
Yeah, he's still going, yep.
Oh, no, he's only 33, 34. Right, so he's not even old. Aye. You've got Peruzzi.
Oh, God, Angelo Peruzzi, Juventus.
Taibe.
Massimo Taibe, yes.
So he's 30 by now, so he's at his peak of his powers.
Yeah.
And then you've got Toldo. You've got Marchigani, who was Lazio's goalie.
Lazio, yeah.
So the list of goalkeepers they had, the quality to choose from, and may I add, a 21-year-old Buffon.
Still going at this
So
day.
when you're number one for Italy, that means you have seriously excelled in your position that season to be warranting the number one jersey, which of course Toldo obviously had, means nothing to Henrik.
Oh no, he doesn't care about your reputation.
He does that step over and then go round him. It is just a glorious moment.
As from a fan point of view, Russell, obviously we're delighted that Henrik scored because he's a Celtic player, and for the last 2 years he's been absolutely pivotal at the team. But see, from the point of view of he just came back from time injury, because I can remember feeling relief because there was a worry that Larsson's back after his injury. Is he still going to be as good as what he was? Which is a natural thing to think about many players. We've seen lots of players come back off long-term injuries. But I can remember a feeling of relief because it was like, we're going to be just fine. Henrik is still doing, if he can do that. And I say, I don't think we were prepared quite for how good he was about to become. Like I said earlier on with the Michael Schumacher thing, guy comes back off a leg break and ends up just destroying everything in his path for the next 4 or 5 years. And it was like Henrik Larsson in Scottish football for the next 4 or 5 years. He was untouchable.
Yeah. Henrik was upset, mate. Henrik felt that I think that in 99-2000, the Venglos season, I think as much as we didn't, win the league, we still had routed Rangers 5-1 during that season. Obviously, Lubowood came in. There'd been Viduka had arrived as well. And I think in 99-2000, Henrik felt, I'm a bit pissed off about that injury more because I know, had I been there, that season could have been a different story.
Yeah.
Right? Indeed. That is not how that was meant to pan out, getting humped off Inverness, Cali, finishing, 19 points behind. I think he went, you know what? I'm actually more now annoyed I've missed out. Larsson's one of those people you don't piss off in life. Yep. We've spoke about the Blackburn game before, where they writ him off. They said he might not be world class, albeit he'd scored the winner in the first leg. I think it was a bit bizarre, but anyway, why you're questioning me? But York and Cole are brilliant. Neither of them scored. But anyway, that's fine. Piss me off, watch me go. And I think Henrik came back after the leg break, pissed off at his misfortune. That's what he was annoyed at. Not at anyone in particular, but pissed off at he could not influence what had happened around him. He had to watch from the sidelines. And he came back with a mentality that, you know what? I'm better than even what I was before. Watch me come back. And I also believe his drive to make it to the Euros epitomizes Henrik. It's not a self-congratulatory thing. It's not an egotistical thing, albeit I'm sure there is a bit of ego there. But the bit of ego is, I help your team. I make your team better when I'm in it. His drive to get fit for these tournaments, his drive to make sure he was in that squad for that last day of Celtic season, and his demanding that he was included in it, I think reflects on real character. I just think in this day and age, when you look at a striker in the makeup of Larsson, who could do all the flicks and all the, all the flair stuff, the dinks and all the flair stuff you associate. You don't associate these guys with having that mindset as well all the time. You associate them with more airy-fairy, shall we say. A wee bit more blasé, but, I'm injured, I can't play. Henrik was the complete opposite for that. And I just think do you know what it was, Phil? That was him laying down a marker to what was about to come in his 53-goal season that lay ahead.
European Golden Boot winner the next season, and Celtic go on and win the treble. Say Martin O'Neill comes in, it's a perfect storm where just like everything just comes together.
He's told you though, he's given his trailer video, mate. That's his trailer. That's his promo video for it. You don't know how good I am now. I'm better. And it's just amazing, mate.
Oh, and see, he was a pivotal part of like Martin. It was a perfect combination. We talked about that a couple of shows ago about like the Martin O'Neill and Larsson, you know, the relationship and so forth. But as I said earlier, Martin O'Neill was at this time. There's a wee thing I want to throw in there before we move on to like the next talking point again. I put him on the thumbnail for this very reason, because there was a player that came out of this tournament that we ended up signing, and I've got to think that Martin probably had a wee eye on him, wee scouting mission, you know, and spotted him, because he's already announced as Celtic manager before the Euro started. But Yusuf Al-Haran gets signed, the Belgian centre-back. And I always feel when people talk about the Martin O'Neill era, the three big centre-backs, Mjällby and Baldi, everyone always thinks of them, not saying better, but they always seem to be the ones that people think of first, because Baldi was a presence, he was a unit, a monster. Mjällby, I felt, had that personality that makes him the more memorable one. But Al-Haran was always just like there, consistent, brilliant, but I feel doesn't get the praise that he should. How good was Al-Haran, mate?
More interestingly, Phil, Bobo Baldi didn't join till a year later.
He joined till a year later, I know, and he still.
So that back three that you're thinking of had a completely different makeup to it. You know, the first year it would have been Al-Haran. Stubbs played back and forward. I remember it being Al-Haran. Tom Boyd played quite a bit at the very, very start, did he not?
He did have a few moves.
There was Mjällby, Al-Haran, I think Tommy Boyd played, and then Raymond Vega, course, arrived. What was it, October? Was it October, November he joined?
Yeah, he was somewhere in the middle of the season, and there was a big move to
He scored a double. He scored a double against Aberdeen, 6-0. But yeah, Al-Haran for me was the standout that first season.
Oh, he was superb.
I actually felt he was like a winger, Al-Haran, in terms of mentality. A complete confidence player, mate.
Yeah.
And he played with swagger. I remember he curled one
against Hearts.
I mean, mate, like we needed that goal. It was an absolute belter.
Yep.
And you're looking at this guy full of swagger. And I actually think the last couple of years of Al-Haran, we did not see the true.
Yeah.
Al-Haran. I don't think playing on the left helped him. I think it was almost a kudos to him that, well, you're the most able out our centre backs to play on the left hand side. But I also think he was exposed a bit for that. But I think he was a bit of a confidence player, like a winger normally works. You know, like a winger's very much confidence players, right?
Yeah,
I think Al-Haran, I'm not comparing him to being a winger, ladies and gentlemen. I am saying the mentality of a winger. You know, like you look at Al-Haran, I think his form dipped big time. Even by Seville in 2003, that wasn't the Al-Haran. See if the Seville had been in 2001, the end of the 2001 season. Fucking hell, we had like almost a Rolls Royce at the back then. And I do not think he was as good as that by then. In fact, Ulrich Larsson was kind of taking his place quite a lot by then.
Stan Varga as well.
Stan Varga came in, and that summer, I think, or later on the 2002-2003 season, you're right. And Al-Haran was it was weird, because when he joined for $3.5 million, it was obviously a spy by O'Neill, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. For the Match of the Day studio, he's went, I bet he's probably had banter with Des Lynam going, I'm buying him.
Right. See, I didn't know if he'd been announced as Celtic manager or because it was midway through to, but I looked on the Celtic wiki. June the 1st, he was officially announced. The tournament starts on June the 10th, so he knows at that point. But even if he went as still the Leicester manager, I think he would have known that I'm going to Celtic, because there's a whole story about Alex Ferguson phoned him up and basically weeks in advance and told him about go to Celtic, basically influenced him and said, you want to take this job. But yeah, I can remember Yusuf Al-Haran, so that's why I had to get him on the thumbnail when I was doing the graphics for it, because I was like, get him in there, because then we've got a Dutch player and a Belgian player on the main page, because they're the two host stations. But yeah, he ended up, when I say we look at the three that are synonymous with the Martin O'Neill era, I always feel that Al-Haran doesn't get the love that he deserves, because yeah, you're right, I remember the goal against Hearts you're talking about, where he bends it in from outside the box, and it's like, centre-backs don't do that. Like, what the hell was that? It was an absolutely incredible goal.
And of course, there was the key who kept the Dugs out, you know?
Yes. He scored a goal against Rangers, didn't he? Aye, he did.
Was it the next season?
Scored against Juve as well in the epic 4-3 game. He scored one of them, didn't he?
Aye, but it was the one he scored against. No, I think it was in the first season, and he scored to keep our lead at the top when it was still tight. Maybe it was second season, but he scores a last-minute winner against, I can't remember what team it was. It was a league game at home, He scored the last minute, and that's for the Who Kept the Dogs Out. Who's.
Ah,
He was
okay,
sang.
okay.
Obviously, Dogs wasn't the lyric that was sang, but we're not going to say
Yes,
that
yes.
on the channel, you know. But aye, that was, remember, that's where the chant came from.
Ah, okay.
But aye, he scored a last minute sort of a goal in the league, and it was aye. Folk were going, that is, who kept the Dogs Out. I think I slipped up myself there.
But yeah, that summer that was us off to the races. Valharan was one of many recruits that came in that summer. So
I think that's not far off the money, Stevie
by the
Kenny.
way, Stevie. Yep, I think so. Aye,
Similar to Starfelton's style. I think as well, even when they put the ball at the feet, I see similarities, mate. I don't think that's a good shout.
That's a good shout.
Patrick McLaughlin's right. He lost a bit of his pace after the ankle injury, and that because he was lightning, mate, when he first signed.
Yeah,
but Harren was a real find.
Yep,
and I think it's down to Euro 2000 that we got him.
For a shadow of a doubt. He plays he's not like a sub for Belgium. He does actually playing in the games that they played. So Martin would have got a chance to see him. But yeah, it was a wee bit of secret mission there from Martin, going in there and spying on any potential players that he could have signed. Because obviously he had more clout, I think, at Celtic at that time. I think it's fair to say it. Leicester, even though they won a few trophies in the years previous, he could there's better scope at Celtic for the players he could have got, especially with a chance of Champions League football. But yeah, he was one of many additions that came in that summer. You had Chris Sutton and so forth all came in. It was the beginning of
the way we attracted him, Phil, was on the basis that Martin, you pick the players, we'll find them, we'll buy them. Yeah. I think that was part of his package, mate.
Definitely.
I don't think you're not getting a team that's League Cup winners, 8th place in the Premier League, leaving them to join Celtic. Yeah. Even you think about it, even nowadays, who would that be? Who finished 8th? Like David Moyes leaving West Ham to come join us. The only way he's going to do that is on the basis that he gets what he wants. And I think Martin O'Neill can recommend players he's seen 3 times at a European Championship. I want £3.5 million now. Go get that boy.
Yep.
And £3.5 million 22 years ago. I'm telling you, that's a £15 million signing.
For a shadow of doubt, with all inflation kicks in,
big boys playground. We were shopping in there, and I like that.
We were, mate. So we'll move on to the next top point. Now, normally these tournaments we've done so far, we always talk about an underdog punch above his weight, but Euro 2000 doesn't have any. But what it has is the opposite. It has some top teams absolutely falling to pieces. So the 2 teams that stand out as having shockers of tournaments, funny enough, were actually in the same groups as each other, was England, but the absolute state of Germany at this tournament. And when you think about it, so me and Russell at this point will be watching football for 6 years, but even we know Germany are like a superpower. They are not to be messed with. They won Euro 96. The rot began to probably set in at World Cup 98, and they were starting to get left behind by some of the other nations when they get stuffed by Croatia. They were a bit of an aging side, but they went into this tournament with a guy named Eric Rybeck as the manager. And 39-year-old Lothar Matthäus made his way into the squad and played every game at centre-back. Now, as good as Lothar Matthäus was, but at that stage, the guys like Oliver Bierhoff was well into his 30s at that point. He got. I remember one of the games that were on, say it was Des Lynam, I was hosting, said there'd been a lot of talk back in Germany, a lot of criticism for the manager for some of the players that he picked. But Russell, do you remember just how much a shambles Germany were in this tournament?
Absolutely rotten. I actually think when I watched all the goals back, Phil, when we're doing all the homework and all that, Oliver Kahn as a goalkeeper, I associate with brilliance, greatness. Yeah. He was fucking horrible at this tournament, mate.
He was.
Horrible. And I suppose that does... I've said this many times about goalkeepers, though, right? A lot of the time, goalkeepers make mistakes based on their lack of faith in those in front of them. That means they're naturally playing more nervy than normal, right? That can be sometimes what the difference is. So I think there must be an aspect to that. But yeah, the German team, every nation goes through transitions. I think what the Germans were guilty of was they were the Euro 96 winners, and there was a hell of a lot of loyalty to the guys that had achieved that. I'm not sure, I don't know it well enough, to be honest with you, what their crop of players coming through was at that time. But my hunch is the Germans were being overly loyal to the guys that had achieved greatness before them. So they were kind of still sticking with a lot of them.
Yeah, that sounds like a good point, because when it comes to Germany, and this is a point that we're going to lead on to in a few minutes, so they were getting left behind, definitely. If you watched a Germany game in the 90s, right, and you start the game and it's like the national anthems, the cameras going along with the players, it's essentially 11 white guys. You watch Germany now, and it's not out of place to see all different sort of like races and nationalities in the
Sure.
German team. Very cosmopolitan now, but in that time in the 90s, as good as Germany were, they had a very structured way in how they picked their team. So I think they saw maybe what France did at 98, because, you know, France are very good at like utilising other markets and finding players that are eligible to play for their country. People criticise France for it, and it's
Algerians, Senegalese.
Zidane's dad played for the Algerian national team. You know,
And then
Benzema is eligible for Algeria, you know.
And is it Senegalese, a lot of them are?
Yeah, Senegalese.
Moroccan?
Yeah. Yep, any French-speaking nation in Africa, yeah.
Djorkaeff, I'm sure, was half Moroccan. Yeah. I think it was him. And then the Germans, though, have that interesting thing where there's a lot of Turkish players.
Yeah, there is, because after this tournament...
More recently, there was the boy at Arsenal.
Ozil.
What's he? Ozil. Aye, and then I remember there was like Mustafa Dogan, who'd played for Germany back in this sort of era, who was sort of, and then I think there was other ones that were maybe sort of Polish as well.
Yeah,
like the winger that played for Arsenal, Podolski. You know, so yeah, you're utilising then.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people take offence to this, Phil. In terms of it's not their real nationality and things like that. But for me, I think if players want to represent international level, I mean, no one's going to tell me Matt O'Reilly's a Danish name. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy's dedicated to playing for Denmark, and he has Danish blood in him somewhere down the line. I don't get where that becomes an issue, and you know, I think people look at it quite cynically as if like, oh well, Denmark are exploiting the rule or whatever. He's never laid a foot in Denmark before. But for me, I'm like, well, no, because a player should surely have a right and a dream to at some point achieve their legacy of playing international football or an international tournament. Now, to do so, sometimes if you are predominantly English and you're looking at the competition, the raft of competition for that there, and you're MK Dons in the first half of last season, the England squad seems pretty far, fetched. Yeah. When an international team like Denmark are sniffing around you, you might look at that as a perfect gateway. And you know what? I defy anyone who plays for any country that doesn't become a bit patriotic about it after the first couple of training sessions and games for them as well. And I bet you that is just as true for Matt Elliott. Sorry, Matt Elliott, played for Scotland, who seemed the most English guy ever, Don Hutchison. I bet you that's just as true for Matt O'Reilly in the coming years. I bet you when he plays for Denmark, he'll be representing them with real passion, real pride. I'm convinced of that.
He will. He definitely will. He'll go on to have a good international career. And I think Denmark are at the World Cup this coming winter, so you never know. He might end up living the dream already. But yeah, in terms of Germany's performance at this tournament, they're in the group with Romania, England, and Portugal. They drew with Romania. They lost to England. England's only win at the tournament, and they get absolutely turned over by Portugal. So naturally, Eric Rybak is sacked after the tournament, and Rudi Völler takes over. Now, this is a really strange time for German football at this exact point, because a fun fact, and I learned this a few years, I think it was maybe about 2002, BBC Scotland did a documentary where Jim Traynor went over to Germany to speak to different officials from the FA, because Germany had embarked upon a new sort of grassroots campaign to basically rip it all up and start again. And fun fact for you, Germany won the 2014 World Cup as a result of Scotland beating them many, many years before, because we beat them in a friendly in 1999 and Don Hutchison scored.
Salmon kit?
The salmon pink kit with the blue across the chest. When we beat them in that game, that was the moment. I'd say it was on this show when Trainer went and met with all these people from the German FA that they decided after that, we need to start again. So they knew even going into Euro 2000, it's probably going to be a good few years of pain coming up here, but we've got a long-term vision. And they're good. They're end game was, their target they set was, we want to win the World Cup by 2014 with this new campaign, this new idea, and they won it in 2014. So Germany, you're welcome for that one, because we beat. So what, of course, this involved was, as I said, they went and looked at different nationalities, different, like a lot of immigrant families that came into Germany. Is this guy eligible and so forth? So I've got actually a list here of just some of the names that would become.
Go for it, mate. No,
massive,
go for it. See, before you do it, can I very quickly just tell you something about the Salmon Scotland kit?
Go for it.
Right, very quickly. So I remember, the beginning of my podcasting game, I streamed for 24 hours playing Championship Manager, 24 hours straight, by the way, right?
Wow.
Right, and I raised £1,700 for the NHS. It was during lockdown, right? I went as Bradford City. Bradford City started RTing it and all that shit. It was class, man. Right, and I was an unknown then, right? An unknown. And one of the guys I managed to get on to interview whilst I'm playing the game was a guy called Neil Tarrant, who was in the Aston Villa squad in Championship Manager 2001-2002 in the reserves, Scottish, and he sent me his salmon strip from the only Scotland under-21 cap he got as a thank you for what I'd raised for the NHS. How
amazing.
Cool is that?
But yeah,
that's cool, eh?
That's awesome, mate. That's fucking cool, man. Nice. The name Tarrant, that rings a wee bell there.
Tarrant, he was highly, mate. He was in training with like Juan Pablo Angel and that, mate. He was like, it's a joke. He was like, it was a joke. Paul Merson, he was like, you're just watching him just cutting about the ball.
He was
but he was like, he phoned me. Well, he didn't phone me. In fact, he did phone me after we'd done the thing. We spoke, and he goes, I want to send you a gift, young man. He was like, he was a Geordie. He was like, what you're doing is amazing. He's like, you've raised £1,700. He goes, do you know what he said? He goes, by the way, I think you could do all right in a microphone going forward.
There you go.
How funny is that, eh? Because he was like, that was a great interview. And he goes, I'm going to send you a gift. Just send me your address. And I should be able to find it, eh? But he sent me his under-21 Scotland jersey. He just says,
okay.
But it was 1,700 we raised for the NHS doing a 24-hour stream. So just that salmon top, instantly, that's what comes to mind. Anyway,
it was Don Hutchison that scored the goal in that friendly. But yeah, to say this game, this loss to Scotland was apparently the breaking point for Germany. They're like, oh my god, we must rip everything up and start again. So notable players that would become massive German internationals over the next decade included Miroslav Klose and Lukas Podolski, who are both eligible for Poland, Kevin Karanye, who's eligible for Hungary, Jerome Boateng and Gerald Asamoah, Ghanaian, Kevin Prince Boateng, Jerome's brother, would opt to still play for Ghana, but he was also approached, but he stayed with the Ghanaian national team, Sami Khedira, Tunisian, Ilkay Gundogan and Mesut Ozil, Turkish, Leroy Sané is Senegalese, Serge Gnabry is Ivorian, and Anthony Rudiger is from Sierra Leone, and that's just some of them, and I imagine in the chat there's probably people putting in other ones that I might have missed.
And do you know what? We got it tight for Robbie Stockdale. Do you know what I mean?
I know, man. Some of the players that Bertie Votes for up German was picking during that era. He was finding all sorts of people that were eligible for Scotland. But yeah, that was like the route they went down. But it was like, right, we're going to become a bit more cosmopolitan now and start branching out. And it worked because they did win, because their tournament record over the next few years, incredibly, they actually got to the 2002 final, which was a bit of a surprise to even them. But then 2004, they're out in the group.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
2004 though, it's back to that sort of they flopped in the group stages, but then after that it's just consistent, like good performances. 06 semi-finalists, 08 finalists, 2010 semi-finalists, 2012 another semi-final, 2014 winners, 2016 Euros semi-finalists, 2018 they get the cost of the World Cup champion going out in the group stages. That seems to be a thing. And then 2020, well, they get beat by England last year in the Euros, and the infamous game with the little girl crying. All the England fans were. It was a horrible day, horrible day that day on Twitter. There was a lot of shocking things said by keyboard warriors. Poor wee lassies greeting their heart out. Germany get beaten. They're going to town on her. But yeah, Germany's record would improve. But that early 2000s Germany, and especially this tournament, they were a fucking shambles. Say 39-year-old Lothar Matthäus was just all over the place. It was like he had no right to be in that squad at that stage. No right at all, man.
No. I mean, I think that's almost blind loyalty at times, you know, which I think a lot of teams or countries can be, guilty of at times. But, I think obviously it's weird because they've went to the well many a time before, even at the 98 World Cup. Klinsmann was scoring there, mate,
Yeah.
and he was, 34, 35 by then.
Oh, aye.
And I think, Matthias was like of a higher standing than Klinsmann in the in German sort of perception. I could be wrong saying that. But I reckon that's the case. And he just had such a status that even at 39, we'll put it this way. Let's flip it. World Cup is going to be 5 months away. Ronaldo's going to be 37, pushing 38 by then. No one will blink an eyelid at him playing for Portugal, mate.
I know.
No one will blink an eyelid. And when he scores 3-4 goals at the tournament, no one will blink an eyelid then either. And when Portugal go out in the quarters or the second round, no one will blink an eyelid and blame it on Ronaldo. Of course they won't. I think these things, sometimes perception can be wrong. But yeah, I think when the collective has been so many over 30, that maybe there's an admirable quality to that in terms of loyalty to guys who have done as good before. But maybe sometimes someone's got to be a wee bit more cutthroat, a wee bit more progressive in their thinking and go, do you know what? Thank you for all your efforts. We appreciate it, but we're going this way. Yeah. And that was maybe a call that had to be made for Germany by then. But do you know what? I don't feel sorry for them for having one shitey tournament.
No, exactly. And I say it would get better for them. Maybe they'll get back to the promised land where they usually are. But yeah, this team in particular are bad. And also, it was this team as well that a year later would lose 5-1 to England at home in a World Cup qualifier. We'll talk about that in the 2002. We'll talk about that more in the 2002 one, but that was certainly an interesting one. So we're moving on to now 2 games in particular for the next 2 talking points. The semi-finals at the Euros this year were definitely a contrast, to say the least. They were surreal for totally different reasons. So the first one we'll concentrate on is the match between Holland and Italy, played in Amsterdam. So up to this point, so Holland have came out of a group with France, the World Cup holders, the Czech Republic, and Denmark. They've won 3 games out of 3, although France did field a total second string 11, which, don't get me wrong, is still a good team. They still had a lot of top players, but they literally changed their full starting 11 for the last group game because both teams had qualified. So Holland ended up beating them, and they go through and they played Yugoslavia in the quarterfinals, beat Yugoslavia 6-1, absolutely embarrassed them. Holland, without a shadow of doubt, in this tournament are playing some of the best football. Obviously, they've got a home advantage.
I would say favourites by this point.
Yeah.
They're playing the best football. When you reflect on the tournament and you actually go through the class of the Holland team, right? So what we've got to look at is there's two phases to the Dutch team, because I want to talk about them because I found it very interesting watching I did do my homework, Phil,
I don't doubt you didn't, man.
You watch the Dutch team, right? 2 phases to it. So you've got the youth of the Ajax team, okay? And then you've got the sort of guys in the Ajax team that were early to mid-20s that have now dispersed across Europe, right? And you're now looking at a guy who's hitting the penalties, who's captain. Frank de Boer's a Barcelona defender now. He was a Champions League winner of the Ajax 5 years before. Ronald de Boer's in the midfield as well. I think he's now, by this point, he's a Barcelona player. You then look at Patrick Kluivert, soon to be, if not already, a Barcelona player. And for me, the best pound-for-pound striker at the tournament, actually, at this point, on form.
Wins the Golden Boot.
He was almost a night. He was impossible to play against. He's actually a joke how well he plays at this tournament. You look at guys like Bolo Zenden, again, coming to the fore, having been at PSV, funnily enough, made the same trajectory to Barcelona. That team is littered with players that had built up an experience from a very, very, very young age, but of success that is mind-blowing, and encapsulated in winning a Champions League, and I think being runners-up as well in the mid-90s. So a lot of this group had been in 2 Champions League finals, one win, one not, and are now by 2000 maturing. They're maturing. A lot of them are now in their mid to late 20s, if not early 30s, like Frank de Boer's 30, Ronald de Boer's 30, and Philip Koku's 30, and you're going, this is a great blend now, because the youngsters from the 95, 96, 97 Ajax team are now fully fledged internationals, loads of caps behind them, and are at a maturity level where they could win an international tournament. The other guys are actually now so experienced of playing in the top flights of the top 3-5 leagues in Europe, as well as the Champions League. And we've got now, by this point, 60, 70 caps probably amongst them all. You're going, this is the perfect recipe here. I think so anyway. And I think the 6-1 win over Yugoslavia absolutely was their peak moment where they sent shockwaves around the rest of the tournament. And for them, it's probably a pity they didn't go on to win that. I would say, despite the fact that they achieved the World Cup final in 2010, I wouldn't say they were as captivating a team as what the Euro 2000 team was. In my opinion, that is the honest truth.
I've got to agree with you, mate. This team is absolutely... We talk about nations that have got golden generations. We'll get on to, I'm sure, England's golden generation in the next couple of years. And Portugal had a golden generation team, which actually sort of starts in here. But this Holland team is ridiculous. Dennis Bergkamp up front as well, the magician himself. But one thing that, just strikes me watching the goals back again when I was doing my homework for it, like, I made my dad watch it as well. And, this is a show we're going to be talking... This is what we're talking about. And he said the same thing as me. See, when you see any of the Dutch games, it's the sea of orange shirts in the crowd. It is every single fan is wearing orange, every single one there. So it's the same like I'm an F1 fan. Max Verstappen's the world champion. He's the top driver, Dutch guy. These fans just wear this bright orange everywhere, and it's quite intimidating when you're an opposition player because it just hammers home when you're watching the highlights of this. You see all the Dutch goals in that and all the games they played in, and it's an absolute sea of it. And it's like, Yugoslavia had a really strong... They came out of group with Spain and completely got horsed, absolutely destroyed by Holland. Kluivert scored 3, I think, in the quarterfinal. It was either a hat-trick or he scored 4.
He scores 3.
Oh.
I think, no, does he not score 4 and Overmars scores 2?
It might be something like that.
I'm sure he scores 4 and... I think Kluivert scores 4 and Overmars scores 2. I mean, I'm not even sure Overmars started every game for Holland. You know that? It's mental.
It's a scary amount of talent.
He's another one. He's another one at that point who's been Ajax, funnily enough, Barcelona, and was he? And then Arsenal.
He was Arsenal in between. He went Ajax, Arsenal, Barcelona. Because Ajax and Barcelona seem to be synonymous with each other in terms of players that have played for them.
That's the Cruyff connection, mate. Of course it is.
Cruyff, mate.
Of course it is.
But this game, let's say, Italy do what they do best. Long before the term anti-football was coined many years later by Mr. Lionel Messi when he came out and said that Italy do what they're renowned for, defending like fucking nobody's business. Because this game follows a very... strict pattern where Holland look like the only team that are trying to win the game. Italy are just like, no, we're just going to shut you down here and just defend. Zambrotta gets sent off early in the first half, so that doesn't make Italy's case much easier.
What a player, though, as well.
Oh, what a player, mate.
Do you know how old he is at this point? He's only 22.
Wow.
I mean, Zambrotta's a household name, mate. 10, 15 years later,
Could play left back and right back. He was a good utility man. Yes, he was indeed.
On the wings.
Aye. Oh,
on the wings. But I bet he's got a Didier Gap poster in his wall, though. You know what I mean?
But yeah, he gets sent off for his troubles, and then the madness kicks in because, as you can see with the headline at the bottom, they're paying the penalty. This game is synonymous for penalties. I don't just mean the penalty shootout. So basically, Kluivert gets fouled by Alessandro Nesta. It's a penalty kick to the Dutch in the first half. Up steps Frank de Boer. He misses. Toldo saves it. Might have been a wee bit off his line, but hey, VAR wasn't a thing at this point. Saves it. So we go into the second half. 0-0. Italy are hanging in there, still down to 10 men. Giuliano, the centre-back, then fouls Edgar Davids. It's another penalty to the Dutch. Upsets Patrick Kluivert this time because Frank de Boer's like, oh, no, I've missed, obviously. Upsets Kluivert. And he misses. He hits the post as well. So that's 2 penalties missed. We go through the full extra time, 120 minutes. Holland have battered Italy. Italy have barely had a shot at goal. It's a penalty shootout, 0-0. Up steps Kluivert. Frank de Boer steps up, misses again. Jaap Stam steps up, blazes it over the bar. Kluivert actually scores one. He actually tucks one away.
And you see his reaction after he scores?
He's quite angry.
He walks away and just boots the tough raging because his teammates. He's obviously annoyed at himself as well, but he is also, I think, going, fuck's sake, man. 2 out of 2 you've missed, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny that his reaction is not one of a you know, a come on, pumped up, because ironically after his is it not Maldini misses.
It's doesn't Francesco Totti step up and Panenka the Van der Sar, he does with Panenka, and then like Maldini misses, and then it's a Dutch player, Paul Bosvelt, that steps up. PSV Eindhoven or Feyenoord, what one was he? I'm sure he was Feyenoord. Bosvelt, Bosvelt.
No, he was Feyenoord, yeah, Feyenoord.
He steps
definitely
up and he misses, and in the end, the Dutch lose 3-1 on penalties. Yeah, Maldini did miss, and that gave them a wee bit of hope, but Bosvelt had to score to keep them in it, and he missed. So they lost 3-1 on penalties, missing 3 in the shootout, and they missed 2 penalties during the actual 120 minutes as well. It is a surreal game. But yeah, Italy have just basically shithoused their way through to the final. Even though they've been good, Italy have actually played really well in all the games. But they went into that game with a very specific plan where it's like, right, Holland are an absolute force of nature going forward in this tournament. We need to revert back to type and do what we do best and shut them down at all costs. And so being down to 10 men probably accelerated that, where they're like, we've got to just do what we need to do. But yeah, Italy have snuck through to the final on Holland have just blown it, and this would become a running thing. Me and Russell would definitely learn this over the years. We've watching tournaments, and when we got into football, Holland are always notorious for some sort of meltdown at a tournament. Something goes wrong, a player falls out with a manager, gets sent home, or this happens where they've just had a total. It's just an absolute meltdown. They've missed all these penalty kicks. They were that close to getting to the final, and good chance they could have won it with the home advantage and everything, but no, it wasn't to be this time. They were so close yet so far again.
I think it's very interesting as well when you consider that Italian side. I mean, the kit, I had that Italian top.
Light blue.
Unique, mate. It was unique because of the sleeves are longer. It was the first time Kappa were sort of making these kits slightly slim fit. Right, and then obviously Kappa started making them slimmer and slimmer fit. But that was the slimmest I remember I'd ever seen at the time. High armpits, and of course, do you know the reason for that?
Nope.
So the reason that the kits started getting made of that was an extra stretchy nylon, and the reason was it was so that it would be highlighted if a player was tugging.
Oh,
I don't mean when I say tugging, I mean tugging back,
pulling his shirt. Yes,
pulling his shirt. Yeah, let's keep it civil here. But so if you were in the box and you're Francesco Totti and you're running away, and some big dafty's trying to pull your jersey, it will almost be not exaggerated, but it'll be highlighted as exactly as it is, because the shirt's given loads of leeway rather than being see, like the other nylon, which was thicker back then. You couldn't really tell, the actual body would turn, and sometimes that could like a dive, whereas this would just stretch the nylon, and the referees then got a yard's worth of pillage to look at. Do you know what I mean? That you go, oh, whoa. So that was what the reasoning behind that was. I think the jersey was iconic, but you know what's very interesting about the Italian team? I don't, over the last sort of, the 90s to say 2010, obviously, a lot of those Italian players were, very similar players. Yeah, I never remember, Phil, a time where I associated Pippo Inzaghi being Italy's #1 striker, despite him being a guy I associate with Champions League, Juventus, AC Milan, wholeheartedly. I think of him as one of the top Champions League players, a guy you recognise on a Wednesday night. Yeah. But international tournaments with Italy, not very often. Yeah, he starts as #1 striker. Other one, Francesco Totti, I only associate with Roma.
Okay.
That tournament, for me, is the only time at a major international tournament I would consider Totti being Totti.
Okay.
I can't think of another one. I'm maybe doing the research over the next few weeks. Whilst we carry on with Bustalgia, we'll open my eyes a bit more. But when I was watching this tournament, I thought, wow, Totti played more of a part than I had thought. And I also have to give him kudos, by the way, because obviously it's that dafty Sander Westerveld in goals for Holland. It's Van der Sar. Sorry,
Van der Sar. Westerveld played in the game against France.
I'm talking shite. It's Van der Sar. But Van der Sar's about to join Fulham, right?
Yes.
So Totti's obviously like, you're about to join who? Fulham. Watch this. And under pressure, he brings in the Panenka penalty again.
Panenka's him.
That's balls. But I do not recognise Totti as much, or I don't relate
Associate.
Totti with associate. That's the word.
Yeah.
Totti and Italy top as much, or Inzaghi as much as others. And we're going to get to obviously who scored for Italy in the final as well, because that really is a random name, and he was linked with Celtic, if you remember.
Oh, I don't remember that one. I remember him playing
for teletext. It was on
teletext.
teletext.
Oh, mate, there you go. That teletext.
So it must have been true.
Got to have been true, mate. I was ITK back then. You go on teletext, mate. That's what you did. But we'll move on to the other semi-final, because I said the two semis were surreal for different reasons. So you had this crazy bonkers game where Holland just decided that they were just going to miss every penalty they had going. But yeah, the other semi-final is synonymous for one guy, and as the headline says, there's ZZ Top. It doesn't take you much to figure out who that's about. As well, Zinedine Zidane. So Portugal, who've been one of the most exciting and explosive sides during the tournament, they've came through a group with England, Romania, and Germany. They beat England after being 2-0 down, 1-3-2. They beat Romania and they smashed Germany. Absolutely smashed them. So they're through to the semi-finals. Meanwhile, France, they came out of Holland's group, and then they beat Spain in the quarterfinals. Zidane scores an absolutely sublime free kick to open the scoring in that game. But one thing that's forgotten is, France win the game 2-1. Raul missed a penalty in the last minute. He skied it over the bar. Could have took it to extra time. Raul sticks it in the stands. But yeah, we've got this self. So we've got the world champions against Portugal, who, as I say, are coming into their golden generation era. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo's not a thing yet, but we've got Luis Figo, we've got Rui Costa, João Pinto, Nuno Gomes. These are the type of players. And Nuno Gomes, very exciting striker. He threw himself at everything. He wasn't afraid to go for a really low down header, because he scores one against England where it's ridiculous how low down he gets to flick this header on. It's crazy. Incredible
great Portugal side, that Costinha in midfield.
Costinha, yeah.
I think as well, if I'm not mistaken, Deco's not quite in this Portugal side.
Deco's not there, yeah. He's not a thing yet neither.
It's funny because you really are seeing the formation of a wonderful Portugal squad by this point, because missing from it was the likes of Maniche.
Maniche wasn't there. Yep, you're right.
Maniche is missing. Who did I just say there? Jeez.
Deco.
Is it
Paulo Ferreira? That was another Chelsea Porto one that went with Mourinho. Paulo Ferreira, and the one with the Jose Bosingwa. He had the unibrow. Remember him? Yep.
I don't. Carvalho makes this tournament.
Ricardo Carvalho's not there.
But of course, Jorge Costa is playing centre back.
George Costa, yep.
The Porto captain. Remember him? He was nicknamed the Beast.
Yep.
He was I'm sure
playing against us.
Yep. He was, mate. I'd watched him for years in Europe. Mate, he was hard. Do you know he ended up at Charlton at one point?
Oh God, Charlton Athletic.
Charlton, mate, in the Premier League.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Which was
under
just wrong.
Alan Cubbersley.
It was just wrong. He was not. He was one of the guys that it's like when you put him, he's almost exposed. But see if you put him at not being ridiculous here, but if he'd been at Man United, he'd have been brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But at Charlton, you were like, no, man, that's not what he's meant to be. He was the presence at the back. Do you know what I mean? But Jorge Costa for years was unbelievable.
Right.
I know Monty's in controversial mood in the comments. I'm not bringing up stuff like that, Monty. But
well, there's one that you forgot.
Derla, he was Brazilian, unfortunately, Monty, as well. So
there's one that I think we should we'll show them. If you can quickly take our faces away and show everyone the background. There's a player as well that you missed, but the viewers being Celtic fans obviously will appreciate this picture and penalty to Zidane in this semi-final. Here he is, and obviously Celtic fans, we know Vitor Bayer all too well. Yes, let's say him the better.
Vitor Bayer, diver.
Diving the wrong way there for Zizou's penalty. Anyway, he's going completely the wrong direction.
Look at that. Do you like that? Look, Ryan Kelly. I mean, what he's doing there, Phil, right? He's been really, really nice, but he's telling us we're old as fuck. Look, he's like, I was too young to remember this tournament, but I'm loving the insight regardless, Phil and Bhoycie. Ryan, you are telling us, mate, that you're young and we're old bastards. I know what you're doing, mate, and I'm going to take that on the chin.
I know. I appreciate it, mate. I do. Ryan Kelly was going to be a shout out in the chat. Top boy,
he's a legend, mate. He's a legend. I'm only teasing.
Top lad.
Well, like teasing.
But this semi-final is defined by one man, as I say, ZZ Top. So I always, every week we do this, I always give homework to people. There's a video on YouTube. You must watch this. This is, again, the definition of a player takes a game by the scruff of the neck. There's an 8-minute long video, or maybe like 7 minutes 55, say, and it's every single touch that Zidane has in this game. He starts every attack. He wins balls. He goes and tackles, wins it, passes, runs. He does everything. He's so graceful. And the thing about Zidane was, he was quite a sturdy guy, but he was like a ballet dancer the way he moved. It was like he just glided past people. You know, see when he got up to full pace, he just powered past folk. The guy is insane. And I say that there's a video on YouTube that has every single touch that he has in this match. And it is honestly a footballing lesson to sit and watch it. Again, I showed it to my dad the other day. I went, Dad, watch this video. We'll be talking about this on Wednesday night. And again, it's just like, you just marvel at the guy. And I say, I was so shocked when I was looking at the Ballon d'Or winners, and I'm like, how did Zidane not win the Ballon d'Or in 2000 as well? This performance is one of the single greatest performances. One of the single greatest performances I've ever seen by one player in the game. So, Russell, do you remember watching this live and just how good Zizou was?
A shambles, mate. Just a shambles how good he was. I remember the 98 World Cup. I was really, really caught out by how good he was.
Yeah.
I'd watched a lot of Golazzo or whatever it was called, you know what I mean, with James Richardson.
Gazzetta.
Gazzetta football and, you know, Golazzo. And Zidane in the Juve kit, I mean, he was iconic. I never, though, had thought, forgive my naive young eyes at that time, of course, but I had never really clicked that he was of like that top level. And I think at the World Cup 98, he really rocked the boat. But by Euro 2000, he actually became his own story, if that makes sense. So, like, see, by then he knew now. He had the body of evidence behind him, the trophy behind him of the World Cup that he is synonymous with because he scored 2 goals in that final. And by Euro 2000, he's kind of swaggering with the World Cup medal dangling below his shorts, right? He's almost like he's almost flashing it, mate. You can tell the way he's playing is with a guy who's now got that body of work behind him where you go, fucking hell. You know, he's won the Ballon d'Or, he's a World Cup winner, and we all know it was him who's the name you associate with France's World Cup 98 win. So the next major international tournament, he's really, really swaggered into. And I think that was seen with the way he played. Even when he loses control of the ball, he kind of is dragging it back. And I think there's so much doubt in the guys that are around him at times that he's almost getting away with it at times, you know, when he's slightly lost control, because they're just so hesitant with him. They just don't know what to do. There's so much respect now getting given to when Zidane's in your vicinity with a ball. And by the way, he doesn't need that, of course. I'm just saying he got that. He was an absolute joke of a player. I think some of his highlight reels against both Spain and Portugal are a joke for that tournament. He really did have them all in the ropes. He thinks ahead. And of course, as well, by the way, you know, the free kick against Spain, that's a pressure moment. You know, he decides to take charge. His last minute penalty against, is it Portugal, the penalties against?
And the next Euros.
No, I'm sure it's Euro 2000 when he runs away.
This one, he scored. It's in the background. That's what I'm saying. It's Vitor Bayer conceding the one. That's it. He scores in the.
So he scored the penalty, he scored the free kick, and you're going, but this isn't just a night, you know, a dead ball specialist, by the way, you know. Far more than that.
Oh, he's incredible. And the thing is, a couple of years later, they did. You ever seen the film Zidane, a 21st Century Portrait? You ever seen that? It's like they filmed him on the park against, it was Real Madrid Villarreal game, and they had like 17 different cameras at the Bernabeu, and they just were all focused on Zidane, and the whole movie, the whole film is just watching him. And he actually gets sent off in the game as well. That's how it ends. He scores a goal and he gets sent off, which just summed up Zidane, really. He was capable of that.
He was capable of that.
And have a moment like that.
Well, I agree with that. I think he was a temperamental player as well at times. You know what I mean? He definitely had, you know, I think there's a bit of Cantona in him, you know?
Yeah, Oh, definitely. I could see the similarities there.
I
But yeah,
think
this,
so.
as I say, this video, go and find it. Look up like Zidane, Portugal 2000, right? And I swear to God, folks, you will absolutely marvel at it because everything he does, he's just an absolute genius. But yeah, this game itself, Portugal actually take the lead, and it's Nuno Gomez again. The ball runs across the edge of the 18-yard box. He just bends it around Barthez, completely catches Barthez out, just stands there and watches it go past them like, shit. So France are obviously up against it. Says Zizou, he goes in end boss mode. He just takes charge, and they just chip away. Portugal chip away. Eventually, Thierry Henry gets an equaliser in the second half. The game goes into extra time, and of course, that good friend that we talk about, the golden goal. It's here France actually benefited from the golden goal more than anybody across all those tournaments that it was there. But that's another story. But yeah, we go deep into extra time. There's like 2 or 3 minutes left in the clock. Say 117, 118 minutes, and then a mad moment happens. Trezeguet gets through on goal. And Vitor Baia gets a hand to it, and the ball rolls back out to Wiltord, who hits a shot that's heading for the side netting, but Everton defender Abel Xavier appears to knock it out for a corner. But then Trezeguet and Wiltord start protesting, like getting the hand up, going, no, wait a minute, handball. And then you see the replay, and the ball is indeed, it's heading towards the side netting, and Abel Xavier just sort of, his left hand is just down at his side, and it hits him, but he falls down and sits on the ground as it hits him. And it just looks like he's knocked out for a corner, but the linesman sees it and he flags for it, gives France a penalty, and up steps Zidane with minutes to go, tucks it away and sends France through to the final on a golden goal. The good old golden goal, rearing its ugly head again. But yeah, it was a hell of a spot from the referee. I remember at the time, like, being amazed that even like the linesman, the referee even spotted that. But did you think it was a penalty? Like, is your...
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. He knows. In my opinion, he knows. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he does. And do you know what? He's played it. He's played the innocent card after it. But do you know what? I don't also blame him for it wholeheartedly. I believe, Phil, an instinct takes over.
Yeah.
And see, when you're that deep into such a game of such magnitude, you are trying. You're doing anything in your willpower to stop that ball going in the net. And sometimes then your impulsive movements take over your actual voluntary movements. And it is an impulsive left arm because it's such as the desperation he feels he's under. He has to, mate. He's not went, I'm going to block that with my left arm. His left arm's told him, I'm blocking the ball from going in the net. That's how it's went. The brain's not went to the left arm. The left arm's told the brain. If that makes remote sense in what I'm saying. It's completely impulsive. It is a penalty.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, in my opinion. Yeah. I do have sympathy, though, however, for him. Yeah. Because I don't think what he's doing is trying to cheat. I think he's trying. I think he's just... You just are so desperate. You're so engrossed in the moment, in the situation that you're in. You're so passionate about it. You're so... Probably the biggest game he's ever played in his life. Once you're completely... consumed by that, guess what? Left arms just suddenly stick out. The ball's hit it before he has a clue how his left arm's even there.
Yeah.
That's my hunch on it.
It's not too dissimilar in a way to Luis Suarez at the 2010 World Cup against Gary. But the thing that soured to everybody, because again, if you're in that position, you're going to do it because there's a chance the guy might miss. Turned out Asamoah Gyan did miss. The thing that always soured that, though, is Luis Suarez celebrating on the sideline. That's what always upsets people. Yeah,
well, there's a big difference, though. Like I say, I'm not completely convinced. Not completely convinced that Xavier is outright cheating the same way that the comparison with Suarez. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not quite there yet on that one. I genuinely believe that. Yeah. I think Xavier is guilty of desperation.
Yeah.
I think I've frozen again, by the way.
No, you're back. You're back.
I think what Suarez was guilty of is blatant cheating. Yeah. Yes, okay, there's an element of desperation to it, but I cannot emphasize enough what Suarez is doing is ruthless, brutal cheating.
There is no rubbed it in their face when they missed it.
So that tells you he was quite chuffed for what he did. I think Xavier's went, oh my God. Like, I've just done that, but I didn't just do that. Like, I didn't do that. My arm did that, but that, like, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But Abel Xavier had a very distinctive look. He had the big peroxide blonde, like beard and hair. And I'm pretty sure, did he not transfer directly from Everton to Liverpool on like a free
Correct,
transfer?
on a free transfer.
That's right. So he did. But yeah, he is unfortunately the one that handballs it. It's a good spot by the linesman, and Zidane tucks it away, and through go France to the final. But before we get talking to the final, we'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about our favourite game and goal. So my one, I say I'm not conferred with Russell, so I don't know he could have the same as me, but I'm going for Spain 4, Yugoslavia 3. And if you remember this game, in the 92nd minute on the clock, the scoreline read Yugoslavia 3, Spain 2. And by the time the game was over in the 94th minute, the scoreline read Yugoslavia 3, Spain 4. How in the name of God did this happen? Yeah, that's right. We're basically the last 2 kicks of the game. Spain got a penalty in the 92nd minute. Mendieta tucks it away. And then Alfonso, who was a Betis striker, who I think wanted to play for Barcelona, he scores with literally the last kick of the game. Big punt up the park. I think it's maybe like Hierro or somebody heads it down into his path and he just hits it on the half volley. Past the goalkeeper, say 94th minute, but Spain were going out as it stood with their results. Spain were finishing third in that group and they were going out. Norway had already finished their game with Slovenia. It was not too dissimilar to the Man United Man City thing in 2012, where Man U had finished their game at Sunderland and they're waiting on the Man City result. And the Norway players they finished their game with Slovenia. They're waiting on the result. They've heard that Yugoslavia are winning, and even when Spain equalised, that's still not enough. Norway are going through, and then the news comes through that Spain have scored again in the 94th minute. It's an absurd game because even at that point, I'd sort of been, conditions to think that Spain, good team, but notorious choke artists, and it was like, they're going to choke again here. They're going to go into Yugoslavia. They're going to lose despite having a lot of good players. But no, they dug themselves out a hole with the most spectacular finish to a game I think I've still seen. It's up there with one of the best finishes to a game I've ever seen. So
how it happens in that period of time, I think your most recent comparison actually happened only a month or so ago. Real Madrid, Manchester City.
Yes, right.
I think it's so similar. Like when you're looking at it, you're going, it's literally impossible for there to be 2 goals in injury time.
Yep.
And it's 90. I think when I watched it back, it's something like, because the minutes are like going in the corner, right? 92 minutes 40 that Spain equalised.
92 for Mendieta's penalty definitely was on the clock. 92.
And then it's like 93. Maybe it was 90, 91 something, 92, and then it's 93 minutes 40 seconds when Alfonso hits that. And remember, this is not an era of VAR. 4 minutes stoppage time is kind of pushing it, Phil.
Yeah, that's
in 2000.
Yeah,
that is like, fair enough. That's quite a while. Brilliant to see them not, but a lot of people like to see the Spanish team do well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. You want to see all the big teams. If you're a neutral, you want to see all the big teams progress. So, yeah, it was good to see Spain, but sadly they came up against France in the quarterfinals and the tournament was over after that. But my favourite goal I went for was Luis Figo's absolute thunder bastard of a goal against England in their opening group game where they were 2-0 down after 20 minutes. England are absolutely all over them, and then Figo just decides, nah, I'm not having that.
That's my favourite game. That's my favorite.
That's your favorite game. Well, I'll let you talk about the game then. You can tell me what happened in the game.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine, mate. No, just the 3-2 win. Yeah. I just think, that England. Do you know what I love about the England thing is I hate Alan Shearer, right? This is very quickly. I don't want to.
I've gathered that from previous shows we've done.
Alan Shearer's a guy I've got no time for. And what Alan Shearer did, that was very deliberate, Phil, was announce he was retiring from international football. Come the end of that tournament.
Yeah, I remember.
So he is convinced he's Roy the Rovers, mate, right? He's made this tournament about him, right? Because he sees what's around him and he goes, holy shit, this is a good team, right? This is quality, right? He's convinced England are going to win it. He's looked at the group, he's looked at everything, and he's decided he's going to write his name in the history books. He's written his swan song, mate, and just like he did when he decided he'd be Newcastle manager and save them from relegation, he failed miserably. The fact England were 2-0 up against that Portugal side as well. Had the zone. I always kind of felt with that England team, like, fair dues, though, like, they are pretty good. Like, it would annoy me, but I was always like, bastards, they are good, the way. Yeah. And for Portugal to turn it round the way they did, for 2-0 down to 3-2,
Yep.
is a shambles. That Figo goal that you're about to speak about is just a joke. But Figo included, England made them look very ordinary those opening 20 minutes. It's the fact Portugal had that resolute mindset about them to manage to turn that round. But Figo's strike to that top bins is a shambles. And do these sort of goals think sometimes set the tone? I do believe that.
Yep, they do. Because I say England are cruising at that point, but that just spooks them. See, Figo just picks it up and he must be about 30 yards for goal. And it might take a slight nick off of Tony Adams, the inside of Tony Adams' foot, but he absolutely laces this right into the top corner and it just goes right through Tony Adams' legs. It's David Seaman that's in goal and he just has to watch it fly right in there, right on the postage stamp. And yeah, suddenly they're spooked and Portugal got the momentum. They get an equaliser before half time. I think it's João Pinto that equalises, and then Nuno Gomes scores the winner in the second half, and that was it.
He was brilliant at that point, Gomez. He was a brave striker as well. Am I mistaken in thinking he ended up in the English Premier League at some point? Was it Blackburn?
Blackburn rings a bell. I think he was at Blackburn, along with maybe Rocky Santa Cruz. I think he might have been there with Big Rocky, the Paraguayan. Go on.
Because I remember he was at Fiorentina, and you know I could have told you what year he was born.
Of course.
I think he ended up at Blackburn Rovers, mate, in 2012, 2013, which makes me think he was at Blackburn in the Championship.
Oh, God, he was at that stage. Jesus.
That's frightening. That is frightening.
Dear God.
But a great player nonetheless.
Oh, great player. So we'll move on to the final because we've got the same goal, same game. So yeah, unless your favourite goal was different from mine, or was it the Figo one?
To be honest with you, when you look at the goals that were scored, I think genuinely the Larsson goals got to be up there just for what it meant as well. Do you know what I mean? David Logue, what are you up to, mate? That's so kind.
Well
David,
done, David,
you don't need to do that, mate. Like, you do more than enough for the bus, my man. More than enough for the bus. That's really, really kind, but didn't be doing that, mate. You're more than David does loads for the bus, so no. Thank you so much, mate. That is really generous, pal. Anyway, moving on.
Right, the big final. This is it. It's France and Italy. It's two superpowers. You get the reigning world champions. You get Italy, multiple-time world champions. It's exactly the same what the neutrals love to see because the last Euros final was Germany against the Czechs. So obviously it was a big team against an outsider. So for us, for neutrals, this is what you want to see. You want to see the two top teams going at it.
Big time, mate.
It's in Rotterdam, this final. This is where they're going to play the Kuip, which is Feyenoord Stadium. So, yeah, it's a 0-0 at half-time. There's not really much between them, as you'd expect to. Big teams, KG affair, cancelling each other out. But early in the second half, the Roma striker, Marco Del Vecchio, opens the scoring. Cross comes in from the right-hand side. He just comes in there on the half volley, right in the middle of the goal, tucks it away, no problem. 1-0 Italy.
Again, can I just say, right?
Yep.
You look at that. If I say to you, that era, let's say the turn of the millennium, Phil, I want you to pick me your Italy squad. I don't mean the Euro 2000 squad per se. I just mean, the best players that are Italian in that era. Does Marco Del Vecchio come into your thinking, let alone start a Euro 2000 final?
No, because I'm sure Roma had another top Italian striker at the time, Vincenzo Montella, and I think he was more of a prominent striker. Maybe Montella.
The little aeroplane. That's what it was called.
Yeah,
the little aeroplane. There was him. There was a young guy at that point, probably too young by then, Cassano, who was very much on the brink, Phil. Very much on the brink. But you had Del Piero, you had Inzaghi, Vieri, where's he? Roberto Baggio's only 33.
Yeah, Baggio missed this tournament, I think, through injury. He missed this one. He didn't play at Euros, but he played at 3 World Cups. I never played at Euros.
That's fascinating.
By Del Vecchio, he opens the scoring, puts Italy 1-up. So now Italy are like, right, we've got a lead. We're going to do what we do best. We're going to go into defensive mode, just like we've done against Holland, and rightfully so. I mean, they've got the lead in the Euros final. It's France they're playing, who are a crazy the attacking options France had on the park, like Henry, Anelka, Trezeguet, Wiltord. They had a lot going forward. So naturally, Italy, and they contain them. Italy frustrate them. They do what they do best. It gets to the 93rd minute or whatever, 93rd, 94th minute. France just throw a Hail Mary, essentially, in American football terms. Bartes just goes long with a punt up the park. and it's like somebody wins a knock on in the middle, say it's like Vieira or whatever, but Cannavaro, an amazing centre back. Obviously, he's a wee bit short. You know, he's not a dominating 6 foot sub centre back. He misjudges this header. If he was a few inches taller, he would have got there. He goes for a header and kind of skims off his head into the path of Sylvain Wiltord, who takes a touch, and the angle is going away from him as he takes more touches, but then he just fires it across the goal and it zips
The keeper's
right
got
on.
to do better. The keeper's
Yes.
got to do better.
You
I'm
see
sorry,
the replay.
but do you know what annoys me really about it, Phil? Just to come in,
Yeah.
the commentators seem more convinced Wiltord's in a bullet position than I am as the viewer.
Aye, okay.
So the commentators instantly like, and Wiltord's in space. And I'm looking at it going, I think the odds look against him.
Yeah.
If you're the viewer, I'm going, like, am I, from where I'm looking at this, and I don't mean my mind's, I mean, like, looking at it, you're going, why would that be regarded as, I'd be thinking normally, particularly now maybe when you compare it with modern football, of course, when they're in that position, they are taught to cut it back now. They have to put it across goal.
Yep.
They are not to shoot from there. And maybe that's playing tricks on my mind a wee bit. And football was still, you know, this is 22 years ago now. Maybe this was an example of how football used to be more direct, Phil.
Maybe it was. Aye.
Because why is the commentator's instinct, his instinctive comment is that Wiltord's going to shoot here? I am sorry. When you look at where he picks up that ball,
Yep.
right?
You think it's going to be a cross across the goal?
Well, in 2022, mate, I don't think any commentators saying Wiltord's and Wiltord's got a chance in space here. I don't think that's the comment. I think they are. He's in a good position here to cross it back. That would be what people are expecting.
Because you see the replay from behind the goal as it goes in, and you see Toldo's face because he knows he should do better. It goes right under him, and he looks round and sees it just go into the corner, and you see the despair in his face, and it's like the nice minute. And there's a story as well. Thierry Henry said this in interviews because Dino Zoff, who was the Italy manager, all the coaches, the subs, they're doing that thing where they're on the sideline, you know, arms all around each other. They're waiting for the full-time whistle. You know, it's about to go. They're ready to run on the park and celebrate. And obviously, France equalised. Apparently, when they were all going back to the centre circle, Thierry Henry just gave them the sort of sit down. And only as Thierry Henry can. It was probably pretty cool the way he done it, but he was just like, sit back down. Sit back. Do you not like Thierry Henry? No.
Oh, I didn't like him, mate. No, I didn't. I've got to love him as a player, right? Total respect. No, I hated him.
Well, very arrogant Frenchman. He told him to sit down basically, and it was like, Italy were absolutely rattled going into extra time, and rightfully so because they've done everything in their power to win the game. Though they've held out for so long, they've lost a late goal. Now, in my head, when I was going back to do the research, I thought France scored minutes into the extra time. I thought no, it was right before half time and extra time. It was in the 103rd minute. So it was like 13 minutes into the extra time period. But Albertini loses the ball in the middle of the park and Perez breaks down the left and he cuts it back. And Trezeguet, when I watch this goal again and again, the more I see it, I'm like, I can't believe the power he generated from a standing start. He doesn't get much backlift, just plants his right foot, pulls his left foot back and just smashes it right into the roof of the net to win it on the golden goal. Now, you're saying you don't like Thierry Henry. I've got a thing I don't like David Trezeguet, man. I remember the thing with Gary Caldwell when he did the 5-0 to him. Remember that one where they scudded them? And then a few years later, Gary Caldwell done it back to him, the 1-0 when he scored the winner.
Did he?
Aye, we played France in a friendly under Bertie Votes, and they absolutely pulled our pants down, and Trezeguet was rubbing it in our faces, and it's like a few years later, Gary Caldwell got his revenge on him, scored the winner.
I think, to be completely honest with you, Phil, I prefer Trezeguet to Gary Caldwell.
Oh, well, that in comparison, yeah. Like Trezeguet always
Gary Caldwell
a bit,
Gary Caldwell's a bigger bell end than Trezeguet, trust me.
No, but I remember that one. But yeah, Trezeguet scores a winner. So I mean, see that goal I think is absolutely insane. Just the backlift he generates on it. But would you remember that one, Russell?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I think the golden goal format for me, it's right that it doesn't exist now. Yeah. But I'm very, very glad that it happened. I think it's important that football has to trial different things, Phil. Yep. And I think it's very good that we've now got examples so we can look at the unjust of it, and we can also look at the glory of it, and then you can weigh it up reasonably, properly, and decide whether you think that's going forward movement for football, international football or not. But if we've never done it, it's going to be an itch that needed to be scratched. And at some point, inevitably, it would happen and it would go against Scotland. Right? That would be the first experience we had of it. So I'm quite glad that we've seen it, we experienced it, and football's decided that's not going to be the way forward. I've got no issue with that, Phil. I think it's good that we tried it. I know people will not liked it, and some people maybe did like it. The fact of the matter is, the overriding feeling was it's not the forward way for football. But had we not done that, it would have always been in the debate. It would have always been, as I say, an itch that needed to be scratched. And I think it's quite good that football did have that, and it's done. And we've now got a reference point where we can always say, well, that's what happened with the golden goal. That was fans' reaction to it. It was pretty negative, so we moved on from it. Fair enough. But if you don't have that reference point, right? See, if you don't have the reference point, you've got no opinion on it. You don't fucking know. So I'm not totally against it being in there at this tournament. And I also think it makes the tournaments unique in their own right as well. And perhaps memorable for those reasons. Some people can look at it unfairly. Some can look at it fairly. That is, again, by the by, good talking points, good debate. But what I would always say is, if we don't have tournaments where golden goal had been so prevalent, then the conversation would be ongoing now as to how do we improve extra time.
Yeah, it would.
Whereas we had extra time, we went to golden goal, we went back to extra time. Now the conversation is completely fair. It is a fair debate, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, for those who don't like golden goal, there's one more tournament to come, and that's the next one we'll be talking about. There was a very, very controversial golden goal at the Japan-Korea World Cup scored by South Korea against the Italians again. It led to a player even losing his job, but we'll be talking about that in the next episode. So I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, that wraps up the Euro 2001. I would say France deserved winners in the end. They then become the second team since Germany at that point to hold the World Cup and Euros at the same time. And of course, Spain would go on and eclipse that record a few years later by winning the Euros twice and the World Cup in between, when they were just beating everybody for fun in the late the sort of late 2000s, early 2010s. A sickeningly good team. But so we'll now do we just wrap up the trivia, because I set a wee trivia question to start the show. It's been another long one tonight. Thank you for sticking by us, folks. We love it.
It's 50 still live, mate. Still 50 live,
stuff, mate. Still hanging in there.
You should be happy with that, mate. No, I don't think folk are hanging in. I think folk are enjoying it. So you've got two rafts of trivia for this, Phil. Is that right?
Okay, so we'll start with date of Bhoycie, and know how like Bhoycie, you always, whenever I'll throw a wee fact at you, go, I fucking hate you, right? You, Mr. Bhoycie, have already named a player tonight and already told me his age, so I'll get the easy one out of the way. Gianluca Zambrotta.
1977.
Correct.
Yes.
England's number 2 goalkeeper at this one, Nigel Martin. He played against Romania, a Leeds United keeper.
He's 1966, but that is tricky.
That's a good one. 1966. Well done. Pep Guardiola.
1971, the same year as Henrik Larsson.
There you go, 71 indeed. Yes, he was playing for Spain at this tournament. He was a player at this stage. Yugoslavian striker Savo Milosevic.
1973, the same year as Chris Sutton.
Oh, there you go. And the
How quick is that?
The last one is the guy that scored the first goal in the tournament, Belgian striker Bart Goer, or sometimes pronounced Bart Hoer, but I don't think that's the right way to pronounce it. But depending where you're from, yeah, Bart Hoer. He scored the first goal for Belgium in the
I'm going to say 1969.
Mate, it's the same answer as Savo Milosevic, 1973. Bart Goer.
Oh, miles away.
4 out of 5 again. Although last week I think you were unlucky. I made a mess of one of them last week, so yeah. Let's get the headset off. He's retired and everything.
I was thinking of the wrong. That is my night ruined, by the way.
Oh, sorry, man.
But right, yeah, trivia.
Okay, trivia question at the start. It was a wee Scottish football / Euros combination. So there are 4 players who have played in a European Championship final and have also had a spell in Scottish football during their career. Russell, got any answers for me, mate?
Brian Laudrup.
Yes, that's a very easy one.
That was the easy one.
Yep, 92, Denmark.
I think Gattuso.
No. He didn't. No.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
That was the one that I was
He played the World
convinced.
Cup final, 2006 World Cup final.
Yeah, I thought he would. Right, that stumped me a wee bit. I was. Fuck. Okay. Patrick McLaughlin. Thesis for
Thesis.
hearts.
I thought you were. We talked to him
We've
just a few weeks
discussed
ago.
that. We did.
We did. Takis Thesis, 2004 with Greece, also played with Hearts at some point a few years later. So yeah, so we've got Brian Laudrup and Takis Thesis, and they're the two that I thought you would get, but the other two are, they're tough. You've heard of both players, but it's tough.
It's tough. So
Yeah.
they've played in Scotland. Okay, give me the eras they played in.
Okay, both of them played in Scotland in the 90s.
Mcginlay'S?
Yes, Mcginlay'S, mate. He played for the USSR.
I would love to take credit for that.
1988 USSR against the Netherlands. Alexei Mcginlay'S, who played for Rangers through the mid-90s,
He played for who?
the USSR. Played for Russia.
And what final was that?
1988, but he played in the 90s with Rangers. So
Wow,
the goal, the game when Van Basten scores the volley from out wide, that's the final that's from, where Holland beat Russia 2-0.
And Mcginlay'S plays in that?
Mcginlay'S plays for the USSR in that one. Yes, he does indeed. Aye.
So Donny Boy's asking for you to repeat the question, Phil, which is
okay.
fine.
The question was: there are 4 players who have played in the final of the European Championships and have also had a spell in Scottish football. So far we've got Takis Thesis, who played for Greece in 2004, and he was a Hearts player. We've had Brian Laudrup, we know who he played for, he was the 1982 Denmark team, and Alexei Mcginlay'S, who played for Rangers in the 1988 Euros final for USSR. But there is one that you are missing, and
shall I give you some of the guesses for the group?
You can get, but it might be there in the group, so go for it.
Victor by Pato.
No.
Okay. Kuznetsov says Patrick McLaughlin.
No.
I think he's played for a smaller club. I think Frank Soze at Hibs.
No, that's a great shout, though. That's a great shout. Now, France has got to the final in the 80s, but he wasn't playing. It's a good shout, by the way. That's a good one. Would you like to know the Scottish football team that he played for? Would you all like to know? Celtic.
Played for Celtic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Pato keeps saying Victor 1984. No, mate. No one knows what Victor you're on about. Oh my God. He played for Celtic.
Played for Celtic, mate.
Mm-hmm. In the 90s?
Yes.
So if he played for Celtic in the 90s, he must have been bang average.
Oh mate.
Is he average?
Oh no, he's not bang average, he's above average.
What?
That's what shocked me when I went through Wikipedia.
Oh, Mark Reaper.
Nope.
He didn't play Euro 92.
No, he didn't play in that
for
final,
Denmark,
mate. But it is the 1992 final.
You're killing me. Vikhorst? No. Who did Denmark play?
Germany.
Andreas Thom.
Yes, Andreas Thom came on as a substitute for Germany in the 1992 final. The 4 answers are Takis Thesis, Andy Thom, Brian Laudrup, and Alexei Mcginlay'S. And I couldn't believe it when I was going through Wikipedia and looking at all the squads, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Andreas Thom came on as a sub in '92.
Was he was the first German
East German born that played for the United Germany.
United German.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
There you are, folks.
What a way to round up the
Andy
show.
Thom, average.
Phil, we have been on for 2 hours 33 minutes, but before we go, I want you to tell the troops, mate, about the future of Bustalgia, because I believe we can now reveal you've signed an extended contract.
I have, mate. Bustalgia signed
contract
an extended deal with the
has
bus,
been
mate.
signed.
The bus, because this has been basically a sort of pilot, essentially, to test the format and see how we can adapt it, because
Yep.
it's clearly popular. People are loving it, and I'm so overwhelmed when I read some of the comments and messages that I get. Honestly, guys, can't
So you
say it
should be.
enough times. Cannot say it enough. So yeah, we'll obviously continue a few more of these during the summer, but when the actual season starts, we'll be doing Celtic sort of Bustalgia, where we will go back and pick a specific season. There'll maybe be another 2-3 guys on with me each time. It won't necessarily be Russell all the time. Could be any
I'll
other
not be on
contributors.
it at all.
Yep. We'll have
Don't
a
get rid of
season.
me.
We'll just we're not getting rid of you just yet, mate. Not doing that at all, man. But yeah, we will have like 3 other people on. We'll talk about landmark moments. So again, we'll look at the news headlines that happened between, say, August and May. We've covered in the full season. We'll do that. We'll look at different music that's out. I'm not going to go through every single music chart that was out during the time, but we'll pick out some of the big songs.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll look at some of the big news headlines, and then we'll look at some landmark moments along the way in that season and just talk about our memories. So it'll be a wee nostalgia trip. So that is the plan for Bustalgia going forward, and how we're going to adapt it to Celtic. Still tweaking a few things here and there, but it will still be sticking around, and I'll still be driving the bus on those nights.
Yes, we cannot wait, because Phil's going to be doing this either on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, depending on what Champions League game. Champions League night Celtic have. Phil will be doing the alternate night, and he'll be doing that with, actually, likelihood will be without me, as I will be trying to take the odd night off, because the bus is going 7 nights, as we announced the other day. We are going to be 7 days a week now live, bringing you different content. I think Phil's proven with the Bustalgia series so far that there's plenty of scope for him to do this on his own. I actually think it'd be wonderful to see Phil doing it with a larger audience. I think we've got guys in the team of a certain vintage. You know, I'm thinking of the Punk Duck Warlord coming in talking to us about the 90s. I'm thinking of Paul McFarlane talking to us about being outside Celtic Park in the 90s, campaigning for change of the board, etc. I'm thinking of Dell's experiences then as a young season ticket holder. These sort of guys can come in then, and then I'm looking for, like, later on when Phil's talking about 2012, 13, Liam Collos, Conor McCann's, telling you what it was like growing up then, and Phil still behind the wheel. This being a weekly series, a weekly show, is massive for the channel, because it shows that we're now branching out of just it being the Bhoycie Bus, if you like. It's going to be the bus, essentially. And, you know, the bus can be driven by anyone. And I think Phil absolutely deserves to have his own series now. And I think the Bustalgia that we've experienced so far has been an absolute joke how good it's been.
I only remember to wear my glasses though when I'm controlling the comments, because here's what you can't see at this end. This is like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You get the golden ticket, you get to see behind the scenes. So your comments that come up, for some reason, StreamYard decided that a white background with sort of light grey text is good. So I can't see shit with these comments coming up. I can only see them when Russell brings them up at the bottom here, and you've got big black bold text. So I'll need to remember to put these on. The problem is my specs don't go very well with my headset, because my headset pushes my specs against the side of my head, but I'll figure it out eventually. I'll figure out how to get it done. But yeah, you'll see me with specs as well when I'm in control of the comments.
I think that's all right though, man. No,
it's fine. It's fine, mate.
And if there was a dark mode, then I would put it on, because I quite like the dark mode.
It's fine.
My eyesight's shitey. But yeah, that is the exciting plans that we've got going forward. So I'm really looking forward to giving Phil the keys on a regular basis now going forward in a week to be, and you will see further developments with the channel, as it were. Where we're doing that, as I say, 7 days is going to bring its own pressures, but the bus is thoroughly looking forward to it. I just want to say a big thank you as well to everyone who's became a member, for everyone who's donated, whether it be like, you know, just a random donation in the chat. I mean, it's all blows my mind. The bus, will Phil can confirm, you know, this isn't like, you know, playing money for me. This helps with my subscription fees. I mean, the podcast right now is actually stronger than it's ever been on Spotify and the like, Phil. I don't know if you know that, but our hits are now up. Nice. We've now just passed 2,500 audio downloads in 6 months, which is mad, because it's not really designed for that. I don't make anything off the pod. But what I've made off the YouTube channel, I just reinvested today in a brand new camera and a brand new microphone. So you'll all be glad to know. Hopefully that'll keep us going. With regards to the Wi-Fi, I can't help with that. But as I always said, I want the channel to be self-sufficient. I bought in a cheap camera, a cheap mic, because I believe people buy for people, and I wanted to be like that at the very start and see how this went. Now that it's going so well, I am happy to use whatever ad revenue we've made of YouTube so far and reinvest it in making the output a wee bit better. And hopefully maybe in 6 to 12 months, that'll then mean we can take we can take it other places, and we can maybe be outdoor at some point. I don't know how to do all this shit, but we'll find a way. But it can only happen with everyone's support, and I'm glad that everyone is enjoying the bus so much. Phil's contribution has been unbelievable.
And it's 2002 next for Bustalgia as well. We're off to
mate.
Japan and Korea, and that's a long drive. I'm talking about the start, about the petrol, but that's a long. We've got to drive through Russia, and then we've got to try and get through North Korea. So I guess we'll just send Bob McBob to make sure the coast is clear at the North Korean border, and then we'll travel through. We'll just sacrifice him. We'll send a bear to do a lion's job. That's what we'll do.
Bob
McBob, you're up, mate. You can go and speak to Kim Jong-un and see if we can get through North Korea, mate.
That's right. And John Tomlinson, obviously it's a big headline day for John Tomlinson and the boys. They get to challenge the bus, Phil. They get to
do it, man.
The runaway train comes up against the Bhoycie Bus this Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. We will be hosting a bunch of great guys, right? And I don't want to, as much as I want to batter them in this quiz, and we'll have some to and fro's, and we'll have some good banter. They are the soundest people in the Celtic Twitter sphere, pod sphere, whatever you want to call it.
Man.
The Endless Celts are great guys. But we do go head to head, and there'll be no love lost. Question of sport format. Jonathan Boyce for the Monday Club will be hosting. That'll be great fun on Saturday night. Tune in for that. We will kick off around 8, 9 o'clock. I'll speak to Jonathan, work out how long the quiz format's going to be. But Saturday night, not to be missed. I'm El Capitano. Phil's joining me, as is Mark Kearney. And then we play the away leg. And I want you all to go over to the Endless Celts channel for that. I think on the Thursday they want to do it. Obviously, they're busy on prime times, But we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, thank you so much, Phil. If there's anything you want to add, mate.
No, mate, that's it. Well, we've covered the 2000, World Cup 2002 next, Japan, South Korea. That's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that one. So, thanks everybody again for tuning in. And we shall, the bus is now leaving. We're heading off, but we'll be back next week for some more fun and frolics. What do you get, Japan and South Korea top?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.